Well, hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to day 2 of our investigation of the Portland, Oregon. I almost said Portland, New Hampshire, and then I was like, no, there is no Portland, New Hampshire. This isn't even Portland, Maine. Portland, Oregon public schools. We started this yesterday on our 5 o'clock stream, looking into equity in the Portland schools. And apparently they've been doing equity there for a while, because I found evidence that they started doing it around officially anyway. They probably have been doing it for a really long time, but they started their official equity policy in 2011. So here's something I'm curious about. And if anyone knows the answer to this, whether you're watching now or you're watching on the replay, because I know we went live a little bit early today because we've got a lot of stuff we need to do. Here's a question that I have. When did Antifa start to rise and really get a foothold in Portland? And was it before or after the Portland public schools made it an official policy to teach equity as part of the curriculum? That's the question I have. But the reason that we are going live today is because yesterday in our investigation, we came across this here webinar. It is called No Place for Hate, Peer Facilitators, Community Conversations About Race. It was held in February of 2021, so about a year and a half ago. So this is a little bit older. But the reason that we're watching this webinar today is it is posted by the Portland Public Schools on their YouTube channel. And this webinar has students in it. So when you're looking in, so what I'm doing with these streams where we're investigating the schools is I am looking into, I want to use it as a way to teach people how to investigate the schools and how to expose what's going on in the schools when you find things that are worthy of exposure. You don't always find things that are completely worthy of exposure, just to be really frank. Like in a best case scenario, if you look into what your schools are teaching and following the same process we're using for this, you come away happy. You're like, the schools are teaching what I want them to teach. Everything is great. That's like a best case scenario. That's not what's happening in Portland, which I think we all knew going into it, because Portland is as far left as you can possibly get outside of Vermont, probably. And so what I'm doing with these streams is I really want to teach people the process, at least that I go through and that members of the Unwoke Army go through when we're investigating a school to try to figure out what's going on and to try to expose nefarious far left progressive activism on the part of teachers. Now, one of the things that is the absolute most effective things that you can do is find webinars that they put on their YouTube channels, just like this, in which they have students participating. We never make fun of the students. This is not the students' fault. We do not ridicule children on this channel. We do not make fun of them. We do not mock them, because they have been put in this position by the adults in their life that are supposed to serve them and that do not. However, one of the most effective things that we can show people is how the public schools are using students, children that are compelled to go to those schools by the government. They put them on the internet and they use them as virtue signals. And so these types of videos, when like, this is why every time I'm asking people to like send me stuff about their schools, I always ask them to send me their YouTube channels, the school's YouTube channels, and also the if they have a diversity and equity office YouTube channel, that specific one, because this is one of the most fertile grounds of information that we can find that's available without like a public records request, to find out what the schools are actually doing. So this webinar is 2 hours long. 2 effing hours. So I started a little bit early today because I got other stuff to do today, man. I got other stuff to do. Of course, this is Tuesday, and what Tuesday means is that I'm going live with Joshua at 9:30 tonight on this channel. And I didn't want to back up right close to nothing remotely controversial. I wanted a little break in between. And so I don't know how long this stream is going to go today. to be honest, because it takes a long time to watch a 2-hour webinar and to do commentary on a 2-hour webinar. And I also suspect that I might be making clips from this webinar in real time, and I'm going to be looking to you guys in the chat to help me and identify the parts that you think are crazy and that stuff as well, because this should be a group activity. This is not just me. I'm going to do my best to facilitate it, but everyone that's watching this also has a responsibility in order to make sure we're making use of this content that the Portland School District is nice enough to give us. Now, just so you guys know, I do actually have, I believe, hang on, let me confirm. Let me confirm. I do. I do actually have this webinar downloaded. So even if the Portland schools take, and this is something you always need to do when you're investigating the schools, as soon as you find content like this on YouTube, especially, you need to download it. Get it onto your hard drive, because if we do end up using this for something, there is a very high chance that they might take it down, make it private, stuff like that. That's what happened with the Burlington schools. As soon as we exposed what the Burlington schools were doing, they privated all their webinars in which they put students on the internet. But I had downloaded all of them, so I still have all of them. And actually, they're in the well, I won't tell you where they are, but they are readily available whenever we need them in actually two separate places, because I'm paranoid and I create multiple backups. So that's what we're gonna do here today, guys. We're gonna watch this webinar and we're gonna talk about it. Thank you for hanging out and spending some time with me. I'm streaming on some other locations now. I have, of course, YouTube, but I'm also streaming on Odyssey. I am streaming on Rockfin. I am streaming on Rumble. I'm not going to be streaming on Rumble for very much longer. It's going to be like a couple more weeks. So if you are enjoying my streams on Rumble and you want me to continue, you need to tell me, because it costs me money to stream on Rumble and I don't think people are watching on Rumble. And so I need feedback. If you guys want me to keep streaming there, you got to let me know. I am also actually streaming right now on Gitter for the first time in a while, and I'm even streaming on my Actively Unwoke Facebook page, because I had to make a new Facebook page because Facebook essentially 2 years ago restricted my Facebook page, like my Karlin Borisenko Facebook page, and they wouldn't let me do anything with it, and they restricted it, by the way, for quoting the New York Times, which was especially nice of them. But like it wasn't allowing my audience to grow, so I made a new page. It's facebook.com/actively unwoke, and I'm streaming there now too. Awesome. All right. Well, before we get into it, guys, there's a couple things that I do want to make you aware of. If you head over to activelyunwoke.com, you're going to find some stuff. First off, all of the strategies that we are using to investigate the schools do come, at least in principle, from my book, Actively Unwoke, the ultimate guide for fighting back against the woke insanity in your life. If you have not yet picked up a copy of my book, head over to activelyunwoke.com. You can get your hardcover copy, your Kindle copy, or even the one I'm going to recommend, get the audio version. I read the whole audio version myself after a woke leftist read the first version, and I hated what she did so much. She sounded like the Wicked Witch of the West or the Crypt Keeper. So I reread the whole thing just for you guys to make it a more pleasant experience. I didn't want to read my own audiobook, but I did it anyway. So check that out on Audible. Use one of your credits there. And guys, if you have read the book or purchased the book and you haven't left a review yet, I would love it if you could leave a review on Amazon or on Audible or on Goodreads. That would really help me out, and I definitely really appreciate it. 5-star only. If you have anything less than 5 stars, keep it to yourself. But if you have a 5-star review to leave, I would love it if you would do so. I've also got a couple events coming up real soon. So we're going to have tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to have a webinar for the Unwoke Army, which is what we're doing here in terms of investigating the schools is actually one of the core projects of the Unwoke Army. It's called Schools Exposed. And the Unwoke Army is an all-volunteer, grassroots, crowdsourced effort to fight back against woke insanity. We are going to do the journalism that conservative journalists should damn well be doing, but are refusing to because they're so distracted by outrage and nonsense. So we're going to do their journalism for them, per usual. And I've got some other things I want to talk about too. But honestly, guys, what I'm trying to do with the Unwoke Army is I'm trying to make fighting back against the woke insanity fun. I'm trying to make it a group activity because, listen, it's a really tough subject to deal with. It's not always the most fun thing in the world, and, I think the more fun we can make it, the more people that we can get involved, and that way, it's gonna be nicer for everyone, because if we have to live in this insane world anyway, we might as well try to make the best of it. We do have a ton of fun in the Unwoke Army, and I hope you'll be able to join us. If you are not available for the live presentation tomorrow, I still want you to sign up anyway, register anyway, because what's gonna happen is I'm gonna give the webinar, and then I'm going to record it, and the video is going to process for a little while, and then either later tomorrow night or probably more likely on Thursday morning, you're going to get an email with a recording of the webinar. You can watch it on your own time, and that way I don't have to repeat myself. And so if you're signed up for it, then that's automatically going to get emailed to you, and that would be really great. So head over to unwokearmy.com to sign up for that. It's also on the Actively Unwoke homepage if you want to do that. I also have a book club coming up for Actively Unwoke. It's back to school. It's starting up again. I cannot believe we are heading into the fall semester already, but I promised you guys that I would do another Actively Unwoke book club this fall, and so we are going to be starting on September 17th. The book club is in 3 parts because there are 3 parts of the book. The first part of the book is kind of a lay of the land, decoding the woke, the rules for the Actively Unwoke. It's like a big picture overview of the situation. The second part is that we get into specific case studies. We talk about actionable strategies that you can use, whether you're fighting back against woke insanity in corporate America or in the schools like we're doing today, or in the government or in culture. So I have 4 separate chapters on different case studies and examples of people who have fought back to inspire you for different things you can do. The last part is about self-care. It's about maintaining your sanity because I've seen so many activists just completely lose it, become shells of their former selves, turn into absolute nightmarish crazy people. And I don't want that to happen to any of you. So I'm going to share my self-care strategies. We're also going to talk about what to do if you're canceled. We're going to meet every couple of weeks starting on September 17th. I believe that's a Saturday. I think I said it on a Saturday. I might have changed it to Sunday. Hang on. Let me just double check whether that's a Saturday or a Sunday. Oh no. It is a Saturday. Okay, so Actively Unwoke Book Club start on September 17th on a Saturday at 3 p.m., and we will meet every 2 weeks. So you're going to have plenty of time. There's still plenty of time to get the book. There's still plenty of time to read or listen to the book because you only have to finish part 1 by September 17th. So this is completely free. If you want to join book club, literally all you have to do is purchase the book. That's it. Now, I do have another option for book club is that if you want to form a book club with your friends, your family, your neighbors, what have you, to talk about this stuff and to start creating strategies for your local community, another option that you can do is have your own book club with your community. And if you let me know, we can coordinate a time where I can zoom in and have a chat with your book club. So those are your 2 options. You can sign up for the book club that I'm holding with people like just like all over the place that just want people to talk to about this stuff. Or if you have people in your community, say you've got a group of moms and you're like fighting back against the schools and you're going to school board meetings, well, you can all get a copy of my book. You can all read my book, and then we can all get together to have a discussion about the book and come up with some strategies that you guys can use in real life. And again, I'm not charging for the book club at all. The only cost is purchasing the book. And in order to sign up for that, you want to head over to activelyunwoke.com/book club. And there's a quick survey that you fill out and you get all signed up and you're ready to go. Of course, if you would like to support the work I'm doing, whether it be on the YouTube channel or anything else that I'm doing, the book club, the webinars, all the other stuff that I'm going to be doing, the best way to do that is by heading over to activelyunwoke.com/support. And there are several ways that you can help me out. Number 1 is Patreon. Patreon is, and I know some people are nervous about Patreon. If you're nervous about Patreon, I'm going to give you another option in a second. Don't worry. Don't freak out. Okay. So I have set up a Patreon. I've set that up mostly because I really like Patreon as a website. I like their functionality. I know they cancel people. I'm sorry, but we're going to give it a try because I've actually had Twitter aside, and that situation is being dealt with. Don't worry about it. Twitter aside, I've actually had pretty good luck on big tech in not being demonetized, in not being banned, usually. And so I'm giving Patreon a try because I really like the functionality. There are several different levels that you can donate and support my work at, anywhere from $5 a month all the way up to $250 a month. You get different perks at those different levels, including you can get some cool merch like actively unwoke stickers, or I love the Mad Hatter giving the red pill shirt. I think that's really cool. Those come at all different levels, and all of that does support the work I'm doing. Another option you have is by joining my Locals. Of course, Locals is my online community. We do 2 Zoom calls every single week. We've got our next one coming up tomorrow at noon. By the way, if you join Patreon, you're also eligible to join the Zoom calls. So you're not missing out on anything by joining Patreon. It's just another option. But you can also join Locals as well for $5 a month, $50 a year. You can also make a one-time gift through Locals, and you're going to get all sorts of amazing perks on the platform, and also with the Zoom calls. You're also going to get into the supporter only Discord on either of those options. And on Substack, you can become a paid subscriber on my Actively Unwoke Substack or my Red Pill Diaries Substack. And I've got some more options coming very soon. If you want to give in crypto or PayPal, there's information down there somewhere. But I wanted to tell you guys about the support options because we got something cool coming up this weekend. So if you support my work on any platform, if you are a member on YouTube, if like you're a channel member, if you are in my Locals, if you are in Patreon, if you are a Subscribe Star paid supporter, you are going to be invited this week to join my supporter Discord, where we're kicking off movie night. We're going to have our first movie night on Sunday, August 28th, and we're going to be watching the amazing dystopian classic, Soylent Green. I actually recently rewatched this movie, and I'm looking forward to rewatching it again with everyone else and having a discussion about it. But it's an amazing movie. If you've never seen Soylent Green, dude, you need to come to movie night on the supporter Discord. So I'm going to be sending out the Discord information for everyone that's supporting on any platform, because I greatly appreciate you guys. We're trying to build up the supporter Discord to have a lot of stuff going on in there. There's a writers group that meets in there on Thursdays. There's all sorts of like amazing creative people in it, and we're really trying to fight back in all sorts of different ways. Being creative, creating culture is definitely one of those ways. So get in the Discord, join us for movie night on Sunday, and I'm really looking forward to that. All right, let's dig into things, shall we, guys? Please mount that like button if you have not already. Let me just get set up here. Get our audio working. All right. Sadly, this is not an official happy hour, so I am not drinking as of yet. I am only drinking my bubbly. There we go. What kind do I have today? Cherry, apparently. All right, guys, let's hunker down, dig in, and get this party started.
Students, families, educators, community members, district leaders, city and state officials. My name is Filip Hristic, and I'm the proud principal of Ida B. Wells High School here in Portland. Thank you for joining us this evening for this important community conversation about race. We're going to start tonight's event with a land acknowledgement. As many of you know, a land acknowledgement is a powerful way of showing respect.
Hang on a second. Hang on. Let me get our Unwoke bingo cards. And if you want to play Unwoke bingo, I should have done this before. Let me put the link in the chat. Okay. I just let me show you guys. So we do on Fridays, on Friday happy hours, we do Unwoke bingo on my second channel. So on Fridays we meet on youtube.com/actively unwoke to basically do what we're doing today. We watch woke trainings and we talk about it and we play bingo. I just think this might be a really good bingo training. So what you do when you get your Unwoke bingo card is you just generate card. All the cards are unique, and you get a free square in the middle, and then we're going for lines, or we're going for corners. And if you get a bingo as we're watching today, just shout out bingo in the chat. You don't win anything, but you're going to get a hearty round of applause. Yeah, Sour Kiwi was like, where's the bingo cards? You're going to get a round of applause. And then once we get someone that gets their first bingo, then we go for blackout bingo. I don't think I got one with land acknowledgement, but land acknowledgement is definitely in here. And certainly we're going to have an uncomfortable conversation today. So if any of these words are used throughout the presentation, you're going to be able to call, get your bingo square. I also will make up rules during the presentation. For example, one of the unofficial rules we have for happy hour is that if Chris Rufo's name is mentioned, you automatically get a free bingo square. I don't think this is going to happen on this one because this was like a little bit before Rufo got really famous, and so this one might not have him, but I might make up rules just at my leisure. So you got to keep yourself on your toes.
And is a step towards correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous people's history and culture. I want to thank one of our parents and site council members, Alex Hagan, who's also a teacher at Astor Elementary School, along with the assistant principal, Dr. Keilani Haupu, for sharing this land acknowledgement with us.
It's like a whole ceremonial land acknowledgement.
One of our students, Janelle, who is a junior at IW Wells, will be reading the land acknowledgement this evening. Janelle?
Good evening, everyone. I'm Janelle, and I'm a junior at IW Wells Barnett High School. Today, we acknowledge the fact that the Portland metro area sits atop the ancestral lands of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Molalla, and many other tribes and bands who made their homes along the Columbia and Willamette rivers. Some of these indigenous peoples signed the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855, only to be forcibly removed from their homelands to reservations. Many of these tribes' descendants live today as members of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians, and the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. We honestly recognize this history and invite all to join us with an openness and desire to understand Native American issues, past and present.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aisha Conning, one of the vice principals at IW Wells High School. One tip for our audience tonight before we move forward, we encourage audience members to click View and select Speaker View in their Zoom settings, please, so that you can see the primary person speaking and presenting throughout the evening. Tonight, we are centering our students' voices, supported by our keynote speaker, Scotty Nash, the Executive Director of Education for the Anti-Defamation League Pacific Northwest, who has been working with our students over the past year. There are many, many folks behind the scenes that are helping to facilitate.
I changed the captions because their captions are in their Zoom video and I can't read them. And I know some people need the captions.
Thank you, of course, our principal, Philippe Richich,
I added the captions on here.
Business manager here at IW Wells, Erica Caldwell, our media specialist, Cassie Lanzis, community activist, organizer, and ally, Holly Pruitt, our school webmaster, Leanne Van
Why
Horn,
does the high school
PPS
have a community
and
activist and organizer on staff?
Terry Proctor, Robert
That
Gray
might be a
Middle
question.
School Principal, Lisa Newland, and Assistant Principal, Jeffrey Waters, and our partnership organizations that made tonight possible, the Jewish Federation of Greater Portland, and of course, the Anti-Defamation League's No Place for Hate Peer Facilitator Program. We also
so they're working in conjunction with the
Anti-Defamation League teaching and counseling staff, many of whom encourage students to attend the event and are attending themselves tonight. Finally, we want to acknowledge the elected officials in our audience. Portland City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty, Multnomah County Commissioner Sharon Myron, and Portland School Board member Scott Bailey. We are also very appreciative that our district superintendent Guadalupe Guerrero and officials from the State Department of Education are in attendance. Thank you to all of these individuals who believe that racial equity work is foundational in creating a more just, compassionate, and equitable community and world. A few logistics before we kick off the event. The event is being recorded.
Oh,
Audience
we've got some
cameras and
Joanne
microphones
fans
are turned off.
watching.
Here's what to expect during tonight's program. Introductions from our No Place for Hate peer facilitators. What students are learning about how to be an ally.
Oh, yes, we definitely
How
want
to
to learn
have
what
family
students are learning about how to
conversations
be an
about
ally.
racial equity and social
Absolutely.
justice, presented by Scotty Nash, the Executive Director of Education from ADL. We'll pause for a brief intermission, during which time we're going to ask that you take a pledge. Principal Lisa Newland will share more about that. Followed by a call to action for specific
What's the deal with
racial
Joanne,
equity and
guys?
social justice
For those
topics
talking about
by
her in
our
the chat,
students.
what's her deal?
Our students have a lot to say and offer, so be prepared for some active listening tonight. We'll close with a panel, a live panel of students responding to your questions, and we'll adjourn by 8.
Oh yeah, we have to take
We'll
a pledge
remind you
because that's
later,
not
but during the panel, you
indoctrinating at
can
all.
use the Q&A button on your Zoom screen to submit questions to our moderator,
Oh,
which
so
will
she
be
wants to
me,
defund the
Aisha
police.
Conning, at any time. At the end of our program, we will share an opportunity for you to give us some feedback about the program tonight. Finally, before we turn things over to our students, this is
And
our
is a
first
horrible
time
racist person,
we,
says Jim.
students
And I trust
staff,
Jim.
are
Jim's never
putting
steered
on
me
a
wrong.
community event that requires some complex technical skills. Some of the students and events tonight are live, others are pre-recorded. If we have any technology difficulties during the program, please be patient with us as we find a solution. And thank you so much for being here tonight. We really are excited to host this event for you. And I'm going to turn things over now to one of our No Place for Hate peer facilitators, Yaniv, who has a pre-recorded statement for you.
Hey everybody, my name is Yaniv Hornstein, and I am a senior at Ida B. Wells Barnett High School. Thank you so much for tuning in to our virtual community event tonight.
Video.
There are many topics we wanted to cover with you, and unfortunately, we only have 2 hours to do it, but we look forward to covering as much as possible. Just because we are all at home does not mean that we can simply ignore the challenges that are facing our world. There has been so much going on in our school, our community, our city, and our entire country, and frankly, enough is enough. So we are here tonight to spread the message of reducing hate and bias. Tonight is our call to action for our entire community. I know that we can all be tempted by our phone buzzing with notifications, but over the course of tonight, we encourage you all to respond to that text message a little bit later and wait to reply to that email, because the future safety and well-being of the youth in our community depends on it.
We will literally
Hate comes
die
in
if you
many different
answer
forms
that text.
and is targeted towards many different communities. But no matter who you are, whether you're a student of color, a Jewish student, a transgender student, the point is that you're a human being and that you're worth fighting for. The events of January 6th, where thousands of people decided to threaten our democracy by storming the US Capitol, was one of many incidents that have shown us that over the past 4 years, white supremacists and neo-Nazis have been unleashed and emboldened by a man who held the most powerful position in our country. His actions directly led to what you witnessed early last month. The racist rhetoric that he is...
Okay, hang on. I'm keeping a list of clips I need to make fucking later. Portland video. Because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of them. Okay, at 8:22, Donald Trump emboldens Nazis.
Continuously encouraged has caused an increase in violence and hate crimes, not just nationally, but here in our own city. The change that is needed in our society starts in our very own communities, which is why we have gathered you here today. We will be discussing how to reduce the hate in our community and how to become allies against injustice. And we will give you the tools
guys,
and tips.
I need to make a clip of this. I'm sorry. I need to make a clip on the fly. This is just too fucking great. It really is. I'm sorry. Hang on. Let me get this set up. I gotta get my setup here. This is part of why this stream might take a while. Configure recording. No, we need computer audio. Check off that. All right, I'm gonna make a clip real quick. Bear with me. We're just going to watch that intro again because that was awesome. That was amazing.
And thank you so much for being here tonight. We really are excited to host this event for you. And I'm going to turn things over now to one of our No Place for Hate peer facilitators, Yaniv, who has a pre-recorded statement for you.
Hey everybody, my name is Yaniv Hornstein, and I am a senior at Ida B. Wells Barnett High School. Thank you so much for tuning in to our virtual community event tonight. There are many topics we wanted to cover with you, and unfortunately, we only have 2 hours to do it, but we look forward to covering as much as possible. Just because we are all at home does not mean that we can simply ignore the challenges that are facing our world. There has been so much going on in our school, our community, our city, and our entire country, and frankly, enough is enough. So we are here tonight to spread the message of reducing hate and bias. Tonight is our call to action for our entire community. I know that we can all be tempted by our phone buzzing with notifications, but over the course of tonight, we encourage you all to respond to that text message a little bit later and wait to reply to that email, because the future safety and well-being of the youth in our community depends on it. Hate comes in many different forms and is targeted towards many different communities. But no matter who you are, whether you're a student of color, a Jewish student, a transgender student, the point is that you're a human being and that you're worth fighting for. The events of January 6th, where thousands of people decided to threaten our democracy by storming the US Capitol, was one of many incidents that have shown us that over the past 4 years, white supremacists and neo-Nazis have been unleashed and emboldened by a man who held the most powerful position in our country. His actions directly led to what you witnessed early last month. The racist rhetoric that he has continuously encouraged has caused an increase in violence and hate crimes, not just nationally, but here in our own city. The change that is needed in our society starts in our very own communities, which is why we have gathered you here today. Over the course of the next 2 hours, we will be discussing how to reduce the hate in our community and how to become allies against injustice. And we will give you the tools and tips to do exactly that. So please, we ask you tonight to listen, learn, and share this event, which will be recorded, with everyone you know, because it is absolutely crucial that you hear what we, the youth of our community, have to say. Thank you.
All right. Hang on. That clip is coming up. It's processing. That was worth it, I think. You know, selfishly. Oh no, okay, did get the sound. Okay, hang on, guys. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm just gonna make this clip real quick so I can put it on Twitter. Because really, well, obviously, I'm not putting it on Twitter because I'm permanently banned on Twitter. But I am sending it to the amazing volunteers in the Unwoke Army running my Twitter accounts because they're obviously not mine. All right, hang on. That was good though, wasn't it? Wasn't that exactly the Portland that you were expecting to see? That was definitely the Portland I was expecting to see. All right. Let me clip this. This will take 2 seconds, guys. Bear with me. We got to get it into Twitter time. Yes, we're in Twitter time, which is under 2 minutes. Guys, anytime you're making clips for to put, Twitter is actually a great place to share clips. I mean, you can share clips anywhere. Twitter is a great place to share clips though, because it's much easier to make them go viral. But in order to share them, you need to make them 2 minutes and 20 seconds long. So just keep that in mind anytime you're doing stuff like this. You need to look for ways to get short snippets of information that are just like really cringy videos. That's the stuff that does really well on Twitter, generally speaking. All right, let me just make sure this is okay. I got it. Okay. Okay. Hang on, just snipping one more thing off at the beginning. All right, we got it. Portland, Trump clip. Look at that. We already got one clip down, guys. Great work. Go team. All right, let's keep going.
Hi, I'm Yaniv Hornstein.
Oh, he's
I'm
back.
a senior and my pronouns are he, him. I'm a peer facilitator because as a Jewish student, It pains me to see the level of racial injustice, not only in our country, but in our own communities. I want to do whatever I can to be a part of the solution.
Hi, I'm Anissa, I'm a junior, and I use she, her pronouns. I became a peer facilitator because I think it's so important to have discussions about race and racial bias within our community, and taking action towards changing our community so it can be a more inclusive and safe space for everyone.
My name is Anne. I'm a junior. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a no place for hate facilitator because I believe education is a great way to combat racism in our school environment.
Hi, my name is Senya. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm a junior and I became a peer facilitator because I want to be a part of what makes our school racially aware and inclusive, especially for those students who will be coming in the near future who are part of minority groups like me. And I also want to be a part of opening up conversation on topics such as racial identity, ethnic identity, and learning to celebrate them.
Hi everyone, my name is Aslan. I use she, her pronouns, and I am in 11th grade. I identify as a queer Afro-Indigenous woman.
Of course she does.
And I joined No Place for Hate as a peer facilitator because I really wanted to make our school a safe space for everyone, a space where everyone feels comfortable to learn,
Thank you, Benjamin.
as a queer person of color.
Hi, my name is Ruby. I'm a senior. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a No Place for Hate peer facilitator because our school has issues, and rather than sit around and do nothing, I thought I'd try and help and fix them.
My name is Bronte. I'm a senior, and I use
the struggle session is real.
I'm a facilitator because it's important to create a school community.
We're gonna get blackout bingo today. Sin's gonna be so disappointed she's not here.
I'm Nura, and I'm a junior at Wilson this year. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a Black Muslim woman. The reason why I'm a part of No Place for Hate and would like to be a better ally is because I don't want anyone to go through the same religious or racial discrimination that I've had to experience, and I want people to have a better support system they can depend on.
I'm Celia. I'm a senior, and my pronouns are she, her. I want to be a peer facilitator because I think a great way to improve our community is by educating others.
Hi, my name is Mia. I am a senior. I use she, her pronouns, and I identify as Chinese American. I want to be an ally because I want to make the world a place. I think that we need to fight for racial equity. I think we have so many things that we can do to make a better, more inclusive, more empathetic environment, community, and world for us all to live in.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Catalina Montero. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a senior. I'm a No Place for Hate peer facilitator because it's an opportunity to grow my community while growing myself at the same time.
My name is Manar. I'm a senior, and I use she, her pronouns. The reason I'm a No Place for Hate facilitator is because I want to be part of change and making our school a better place.
My name is Gia. I use she, her pronouns, and the reason why I wanted to be a facilitator is because I wanted to start conversations with my classmates and be able to talk about racial inequality, talk about how to be an ally, and know how to stand up towards hate whenever it happened at my school or whenever it happened in the community.
Hi, my name is Lee. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a Korean American junior this year. I chose to become a No Place for Hate peer facilitator so I can work to support marginalized students in my community.
Hi, my name is Weiwei Hutchinson. I'm a junior at IW Wells Barnett High School.
If everyone wants to put their pronouns in the chat right now, just to make sure we're being respectful, I would not discourage that. Let us know what your pronouns are in the chat.
Equality and equity. I want to help and create a safe environment for marginalized students and to also be able to advocate for those who can't.
Hi, I'm Cadison. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a junior. And I joined No Place for Hate.
That's exactly right, Nathaniel. Exactly correct.
Every single individual, regardless of their identity, feels supported and uplifted. And through these discussions and dialogues that we have in No Place for Hate and through the ABL, this goal can be achieved to a certain extent.
Hi, my name is John L. I go by he, him pronouns. I am a junior this
John
year.
L's got some good hair, man. John L's got good hair game. I will give him that.
And the reason why
it's not his fault he went to a woke school.
No Place for Hate peer facilitating was because I wanted there to be a place where anyone, no matter how they identify, feel comfortable expressing themselves without the thought of being judged or hated on.
This summer's incidents of systemic racism that included the murder of George Floyd and the police brutality used against the Black Lives Matter protesters, served as an urgent call to action.
1425.
Although school wasn't in session, we, the No Place for Hate peer facilitators, made a call to action statement about how we must recognize the issues that our society faces and break the silence that is harming our community. The video reached roughly 3,000 students, parents, and faculty members, including at other high schools, and was even praised by members of the Oregon Department of Education. We want to thank our campus security agent, Garrett Norman, who is also a filmmaker, for helping us create this film. Here it is.
Hi, my name is Maddie Lamone, and I use she, her pronouns. I am not currently a student at Wilson, however, I am an alumni of Wilson. I graduated last year in the class of 2020.
Hey Wilson students, my name is Gia Prado. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a junior.
Hi, I'm Celia. I'm a senior and I use she, her pronouns.
Hey everybody, my name is Weiwei. I'm a junior and I use he, him pronouns.
My name is Lee Holobeck. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a junior at Wilson this year.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catalina Montero. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a senior here at Wilson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Yaniv Hornstein. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a senior.
Why does that video look crazy?
Hi, I'm Ruby.
That was his video. That wasn't.
And I use she, her pronouns.
There is currently a revolution happening among us. Since the murder of George Floyd, there has been a resounding response among the American public to combat the police brutality that is a norm within society. We believe that education is the root of all social progress, and we believe that it starts with you. ADL stands for the Anti-Defamation League. It was founded in New York City in 1913 to combat the anti-Semitism.
I just want to make a note that like this webinar was posted in February of 2021. We're not watching it until August 2022. There's only been 350 views on it. And if any fucking conservative journalist had actually fucking done their fucking jobs and been journalists instead of spending all their time on Twitter, they would have reported on this back then. Because this would have blown up back then. I can already tell we're only 16 minutes into this, but no, they don't do their jobs ever. That's why we have to do their jobs for them. I'm not bitter or anything. I just want to point that out. I have to do journalism because people who say they're journalists don't do fucking journalism. And it's annoying. And that is why the Unwoke Army exists, because I don't want to be the only one doing journalism. If I have to suffer through all of this, so do you, and we're going to make it fun and we're going to make it enjoyable and you're going to like it, and that's going to be the way it is. And if you can't hear the sarcasm in my voice, then I don't know what to tell you. You're probably woke. I don't know.
But then expanded to fighting against all forms of hate. ADL has youth programs such as No Place for Hate, which is a program we are all a part of. We signed up for a 3-day intensive training in December 2019 and were taught how to facilitate lessons on respect,
they did this.
anti-bias, inclusion, diversity, and allyship.
Hang on, I've got too many screens open.
You guys.
They did this before George Floyd. This is important. They did this before George Floyd. She just said, we signed up for this in 2019. This was not caused by George. They've already invoked St. George's name like 3 or 4 times in this webinar. This was not caused by George Floyd. They were already doing it. The Portland schools have been teaching equity since at least 2011 as part of official policy. And she just said that we signed up for this stuff in 2019. It's really important that when you're looking at evidence, you really make note of the dates, because these people lie so much. The whole intro to this video was like, George Floyd, George Floyd, George Floyd. And now we find out they were already doing this stuff anyway.
All students in the No Place for Hate group are very passionate about racial equity, advocacy, and educating others on why they are all so important. We want our passion to be reflected in our school community, starting with you. Following the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and many other Black, Indigenous people of color, we see systemic racism everywhere, including our school. We want to take necessary changes to end this, starting with education. Our goal is to spread equity within Wilson so that students of color and other minorities are heard out and feel safe.
So first, what is an ally? An ally is someone who helps or stands up for another person who is being bullied or who is the target of bias.
Although the ally is not the person that is the direct target of aggression or hatred, their reaction should be strong and supportive and do whatever they can to help the target.
Aggression can include many different forms of bigotry or bullying. Anything to do with racism, sexism, homophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, xenophobia, ableism, classism, ageism, nationality, or any other form of discrimination must be immediately responded to.
Being an ally means keeping an eye out for all forms of aggression. These forms of aggression don't have to be violent. They can be words, jokes, or posts on social media.
Being an ally means more than just
This is
showing
getting
your support
clipped.
through words.
Oh
It
God,
means
this is
stepping up
definitely
through
getting clipped.
actions.
There are some scenarios
Being
where it
an
may
ally.
be dangerous to act as an ally. If you feel you must be an ally in a situation, but there is a danger involved, such as you or the target being harmed, do not involve yourself in the situation. Instead, call someone with more authority, such as a teacher, counselor, campus security guard, vice principal, or any trusted adult, as some incidents may happen outside of school grounds.
As you all know, there's a lot going on in our world with the extent of racism and bigotry happening throughout our country.
Yeah, Judy,
People
this
of
is a good
color
bingo day,
are
Judy.
dying
It's a
at
good
the
bingo
hands of
day.
police. Celebrities and professional athletes are posting anti-Semitic comments, and people in leadership roles are refusing to acknowledge the problems that we are facing.
This is like, if we colluded to develop like an AI tool, and we told the AI tool, create the most woke possible presentation that you could possibly create, it would have probably created this presentation. I've never seen it. Well, no, that's not true. I've watched the Burlington schools a lot, but like this is really bad. Sean says Oregon government and education are prime time for woke corruption and reporting. Journalists could be breaking down new headlines daily if they looked into it at all. Well, this is the thing, and this is part of the reason why I chose Portland as one of the places that we're gonna look into Portland for a minute. It's not going to be like Burlington. Burlington, I actually have like a concerted thing I want to do, but Portland is going to be a nice little theme on this channel for a while because there's so much we can look into. Actually, I just got an email from someone that I won't name because I think they want to remain anonymous. Like earlier today, that lives in the area, basically outlining you need to look at this school, you need to look at this school, you need to look at this school, you need to look at this school. I've already made for those in the Unwoke Army or who will be joining the Unwoke Army after tomorrow night's webinar, go to unwokearmy.com to sign up. I've actually already made a channel in the Discord specifically for crazy shit coming out of Portland. So, and thank you for that super chat, Sean. And thank you to the newest member of my Patreon, Corey. I do appreciate the support. And thank you. Guys, if you would like to join my Patreon and support the work I do or join my locals or what have you, go to activelyunwoke.com/support. The link is in the description below.
It doesn't take much to be an ally. I know that I, as well as many of you, have already acted as allies by going to protests, signing petitions, donating, or spreading awareness through social media. These problems have been here all along, and now, through the use of media and your own voices, people are finally starting to recognize the problems and incite change. It is now more important than ever that everyone should consider themselves an ally.
Allyship can happen both virtually and in person. Here are some things allies do. Number 1, confront the situation. Put an immediate stop to the bullying by making a strong statement. That's discriminatory. Challenging intentions. What makes you say that? Or pointing out consequences. This could seriously impact your future. Number 2, help the target. Show support by getting the target to a safe place, both physically and emotionally. Even if you're not face-to-face, you can still reach out and check in. Offer solutions or help in reporting the situation to a trusted adult.
3, find other allies. Enlist others to take action with you. There is strength in numbers. 3 or more people saying stop or standing up in appropriate nonviolent ways is more powerful than 1 and might cause a chain reaction of support. 4, know when to report. Tell an adult if the target is being threatened.
Yep. Beaverton was one of the schools that was mentioned, Jim.
Or if students
Beaverton was mentioned specifically.
And remember that you can report anonymously if needed. And note, this is important, if the target is not in physical danger. Or
listen, if we have multiple people in the greater Portland area that would like to spend time doing a full investigation of the schools in Oregon, we can create a whole Unwoke Army project about this. I'm just saying. We're doing one for Burlington. Burlington, Vermont, I think is going to be the first American city built entirely on equity. It's literally integrated into their city budget. It's integrated into the school budget and into the city budget. So we're already, like, that's already on the list to do. If you guys want to go to unwokearmy.com and sign up for tomorrow night's webinar. I actually already have a Portland channel. We can create a whole Portland fucking project. Call it the Portland Project. We've got the Burlington Project. We'll create the Portland Project too.
Students can handle the situation on their own. Ask the target permission before reporting. 5. Interrupting the cycle. Stop cruelty in its tracks by refusing to forward, laugh at, like hurtful messages, or to take revenge by responding to bullying with more bullying. Nowadays, most of our interactions are happening online.
I think the Portland Project would be a great idea. Let's do it.
It's more important than ever to interrupt the cycle.
We just need champions.
For me personally, if I came across a hateful post on social media, I would not only privately message the person who posted it and try to get them to take it down, but also have a conversation with them about why what they posted is unacceptable and hateful.
You know, it can be a lot, especially when your friends are in a difficult situation where they're being socially or emotionally hurt that involves another group or person.
It may be a lot to take in, starting high school online and taking in information on how to best be an ally.
By being a bystander, you're not standing up for your family members or peers. By being an ally, you're helping your friends through difficult situations and improving their chances at feeling supported.
Don't stress, we've been there before.
If you sat there and did nothing, you are contributing to hate and being a bystander, which is not okay.
Feelings of depression, anger, anxiety, self-resentment are all possible when someone goes through a traumatic event like hate, microaggression, or bias alone.
Another great way to address a situation.
There are so many fucking clips in
would be
this
to
video.
talk to Karen and work to educate her.
Wait,
because you know what she did was wrong and offensive, and you want her to change and understand.
If Sarah called Jennifer a racial slur, would you sit there and do nothing?
Just because school is online right now doesn't mean you can't be an ally. Being an ally is a 24/7 job. Always stand up to hate and bullying in person.
I'm going to have to make so many clips.
To best address the situation is to ask how Jennifer feels and if she would like to talk to a trustworthy adult.
So to recap, how can you be an ally? Address the situation by speaking up and speaking out. 2, listen and find other allies. 3, help the target and be a good friend. 4, know your limits and when to seek adult help.
Wilson doesn't condone hate, racism, sexism, homophobia, or any other types of discrimination. But we want you to know that if you need someone, we're here for you.
Another way in which our No Place for Hate peer facilitators shared how to be an ally was by delivering a 1.5 hour interactive lesson with all 9th graders in February of 2020.
Oh, good. The children are teaching the children.
College and career exploration classes. The culminating activity was a large mural in the main hallway of the school with over 300 statements made by 9th graders where they made brief commitments about how they show up to be allies for each other. No Place for Hate peer facilitators, Senya and Ruby, share more about what they did during the lesson.
Good evening, we are Ruby and Senya, and we hope that you enjoyed the film that we made last summer. Last year, with the help of Miss Conning, Wells Barnett formed our No Place for Hate program. We all came together as people who wanted to set a new standard of inclusion and allyship at our school. Our group completed a training course with 2 trainers from the ADL, and we were taught how to engage our peers on these important topics with different activities and information. After our training, we used knowledge to create our own lessons and share with our school's freshmen.
One of the things that I would like to look into, and I'm just making a mental note right now, how many other schools has the ADL done this type of training in? What other school, what is the list of schools that the ADL has done this stuff in? Because you know it ain't just Portland. They've probably done this stuff all over the country. These are the types of things we need to be asking when we're doing these types of investigations. Guys, please mount that like button for me if you have not already. As a reminder, you are not liking the content that we're watching today. You are liking for the fact that I am showing you this content, and we're making other people aware of exactly what the schools are doing. It's about the effort, not exactly the thing that we're watching right now. It just is what it is. What is the ADL's interest in this? Is in creating far left wing activists. That's what it is. It's in creating activists. Yeah, Brooklyn Way, I got you on Glow Academy. I was looking at it last night. That stuff's crazy. That stuff's crazy.
Class. We felt that it was important to show freshmen what our school's expectations and values are around allyship during their first year as high school students, and give them the power to be allies instead of bystanders. They too lead change in our community for the next 4 years. Last year, we were able to reach every freshman class and deliver our How to Be an Ally lesson.
So in our lessons, we use a lot of different activities to teach our peers about how they can be allies and effectively respond to discrimination at our school.
Okay.
The main strategy of our How to Be an Ally lessons was to define what allyship means, among other key terms, such as bystander, which is someone who sees bias or bullying and doesn't say or do anything. Aggressor, which is someone who says or does something harmful or malicious to another person. And target, which is the person who is experiencing the hate directed towards them. We also offered scenarios where our 9th grade students were given an example of how bias can show up, and they had to provide a solution and a response. We taught our peers how to take a stand and have them practice how to be an ally in safe and efficient ways. It is important that when you are being an ally, you feel like you're in a safe position to take action. Being an ally means that you take the time to analyze the situation quickly and provide support to the targeted individual rather than escalating the conflict. We are in the process of developing our virtual How to Be an Ally lesson for this year's 9th grade class. Our goal as a No Place for Hate school is that every year we will train our 9th graders on how to be an ally and ultimately make our school a more safe and welcoming place for all young people who enter. Now, we want to introduce Mia, a senior, who is a fellow No Place for Hate peer facilitator.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Ruby and Senya, for sharing the intention of our How to Be an Ally lesson for all the 9th graders. I would like to now introduce our keynote speaker. Scotland Nash has worked in education and education support services for 20 years. She has had the role of high school social studies teacher, education director, instructional leader, adjunct professor, and consultant in the Chicago area and in Seattle. She earned her doctorate in educational leadership from Seattle University, and as a teacher, she was nominated for the Disney Teacher
Fun
of the
fact,
Year
I used to
Award
do work
and
with
Golden
Seattle
Apple.
University.
She earned multiple superintendent and principal
Back in the
accolades
day.
and awards for her instruction and collaboration.
Back in the
She was
day.
named an ASCD Emerging Leader in 2014, and currently as the Director of Education for the ADL Pacific Northwest region. She works with schools, districts, and their community to learn about identity and diversity, to practice anti-bias strategies for communication, and act as allies for social justice. Without further ado, Scotland Nash.
Me so much, and I just want to pause.
Oh,
and
white
say,
lady.
Wow, the students at Ida B. Wells are doing incredible work and making such an impact in their school and their community. So thank you for that. It is a pleasure to work with all of you, and it is wonderful to be with you tonight. We are going to have a short, reflective opportunity to think about race, bias, and privilege. I want to start by sharing the ADL's mission. The mission has been the same for over a century. It is to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and to secure justice and fair treatment to all. When I think about this mission, and part of the reason why I took this job and was so enthusiastic about joining the ADL is because I thought about empathy. I had this vision.
Oh, James Jones, bingo! Congratulations, James Jones, our first bingo of the day. I suspect we won't be the last bingo of the day. All right, guys, if you get a bingo card, and we got the great Von Braun is also getting a bingo as well. Congratulations. Guys, I'm going to put the bingo card again in the chat one more time. You can still start from scratch if you haven't already. You can still get a line. If you get a line or a corners, call out bingo in the chat. But now we're really going for the big one. I have a good feeling today is going to be the day. I want blackout bingo today. I've been doing bingo for almost 2 years. No, there has not been one single blackout bingo yet. I believe in all of you. Today is going to be the blackout bingo day.
Of a group of Jewish people who had been experiencing incredible hatred and feeling really uncomfortable, feeling unsafe, feeling uncertain, and wondering what to do next. As they worked together to say, we aren't going to stand for this, they looked around and they saw people who were Black, Indigenous, gay, different identities that were also feeling the same kind of defamation and hatred as they were. And rather than working by themselves, they worked with people who were feeling similarly to them. They collaborated and understood around their experiences. They built empathy and compassion for one another and worked to secure justice and fair treatment for all people. Is that what really happened? I don't know. But I can tell you that's the image and the story that I tell myself as I think about the work that we have ahead of us now in terms of talking about race, understanding difference, and connecting with one another. In the work that we do, we always start with some ground rules. When we have lots of time, like 3 days with our students at Wilson, they developed their own ground rules. But tonight, I'm sharing with you some of the ground rules we use at the ADL when we want to engage in really difficult conversations. We think about responsibility for one's own learning, that as we step to the table for a difficult conversation, you're responsible for what you are learning from one another. We think about empathy. How do you hear others' stories and connect to them through your own experiences? How are we sensitive to one another's needs and respecting one another's privacy? How do you participate fully? As we heard earlier, tonight we're asking you to turn off your cell phone and engage and reflect in the conversations that we're
Lives
having.
literally depend on you putting down your cell phone.
Exploration and examination. What do we need to know that we don't already know? Not just outside ourselves, but inside ourselves. We talk about confidentiality. What we learn and we hear directly from others may stay in that room, but what we can take away is what we share. We talk about trust and understanding that this work takes time. And then finally, we want to acknowledge that these conversations about race and difference are difficult. And that what frequently stops people from participating in these conversations.
You can't make a recording if your phone's off.
Scared they're going to make a mistake.
You're
That
right.
they're going to be offensive. And rather than not participating in the conversations, what we ask is that if something happens, if you misspeak, you acknowledge that you've misspoken, that you made a mistake. And if you hear someone else say something that makes you feel uncomfortable, that you pause the conversation by saying, ouch, I'm uncomfortable with what happened, what I heard. This is what I heard. Can you help me understand?
Ouch.
So with these ground rules, it's that I ask you to engage in the further conversation that we're going to have tonight. If you're alone, reflect and identify one of these ground rules that's going to guide how you enter the rest of the evening. If you're watching this video and participating in this workshop,
if any of you feel uncomfortable watching this video, I want you to type ouch into the chat.
Which ground rule
I'm not going to stop
holding
the
at the
video or
forefront
anything. I just
of
want you to feel like you can
reflection
express
as we
yourself.
talk about race. If you're so inclined, feel free to put it in the chat. Make it visual so that we can see what you are thinking about tonight as we carry forth in this conversation. So with that, I'm going to give us about 30 seconds of just silence to sit with these ground rules.
Yeah, I see a lot of ouches. I'm very sorry for your pain.
Difficult conversations.
Mount that like button if you are experiencing ouch right now. Oh, we're having a moment of silence. Look at her looking sternly into the camera. These people always look like they're dead inside. They do. Like, I feel like I'm in the principal's office and I'm about to be punished for something.
The
Of course, I never
ADL
got
and our
sent to the principal in
anti-bias
school. This is what I'm
education,
guessing it was
not
like.
just in the Pacific Northwest, but across the country, has grounded our education work in these 4 guiding principles. We talk about exploring identity. In exploring identity, what we think about is how do you understand all the different aspects of who you are, and are those aspects things that you were born with? Are they things that you have chosen? It's your idea of what you see, but also what is below and you in terms of identity. What is your relationship with who you and potentially your role in having power and privilege or not? It's that internal self-reflection and understanding that we know is at the core of what we do. We talk about interpreting difference. How do we value the diversity in our society? How do we adopt vocabulary so that we know that what we're talking about? How do we understand prejudice and discrimination and begin to develop strategies to talk across differences? How do we challenge bias? When we see something, say something. When we hear something, how do we support? How do we check our own biases? And how do we prevent discrimination and further oppression? And then we talk about championing justice. And wow, can we see that from these students at Ida B. Wells High School?
Ooh.
There is no question that they are champions of justice. They advocated for a name change. They've built lessons to work with all of their students.
They advocated for a name change.
And they're having conversations about what it means to have an impact. This is a goal in the education and work that we lead with the Anti-Defamation League. I'm going to give you a moment to reflect on this next question. The hard part of talking about race and racism is, or the beneficial part of talking about race or racism is. We know that it's difficult and we know that we need to do it. So again, I'm going to give you a moment to either put in the chat function if you're so inclined, to turn and talk to somebody who's sitting next to you, to write a note and reflect for yourself, or to just silently sit with these sentence stems for just a minute. The hard part about talking about race and racism is, the beneficial part about talking about race and racism is. So,
if you guys want to do your own self-reflection in the chat, I wouldn't discourage it.
Some of the reasons that talking about race is hard will become more evident as we continue through the session that I'm leading right now and the conversation that I'm encouraging you to reflect on and to think about. We do know the benefits of talking about race, and hopefully by the end of this conversation and the end of the evening, those will be even more highlighted as we continue this work. So please sit with that self-reflection as we continue forward. Why does the ADL start their work in kindergarten?
What?
In 2001, a study found...
Did anyone else not see that coming? Why does the ADL start their work in... Okay, hang on. Let me get set up to make another clip on the fly. Yeah, some of you just heard the same thing I did. You're just hearing it on a slight delay. I just didn't see that coming. Hang on. We're going to make another clip. Fucking kindergarten. Are you serious? Of course they are.
And hopefully by the end of this conversation and the end of the evening, those will be even more highlighted as we continue this work. So please sit with that self-reflection as we continue forward. Why does the ADL start their work in kindergarten? In 2001, a study found that almost half of 200 children studied had racial biases by the age of 6. By 6 months of age, children can distinguish different skin color, hair texture, and facial features. We know that there are negative predispositions acquired at early developmental levels that can lay the foundation for manifestations of prejudice. And more than 1 out of every 5 students report being bullied. And we connect that bullying frequently to identity-based bullying, where people are targeting another classmate because of an aspect of their identity. So why do we begin this work and talking about it in kindergarten? Why have some of the Portland public schools joined this work in terms of the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school? Is because we know that it starts early. The conversations need to happen at home because students and children are getting formative opinions and ideas about race early in their lives. So knowing this.
Okay. I'd say that's a pretty good clip. I'd say that's a good one. Hang on. Sorry, guys. We got to make some of these in real time. I'm going to go back and clip some of this other stuff too, but some of these things are just so fucking crazy that we need to do them as the opportunity presents itself. All right, hang on. My effing God. These people are going to drive me to an early grave. Hang on, give me 2 seconds. Gotta make this clip. I got her. All right, just gotta make it snazzy for the screen. Thanks for bearing with me, guys, while I'm making clips on the fly as we're watching this crazy webinar. This is for those of you who just joined, this is a webinar posted on the official YouTube channel of the Portland, Oregon Public Schools. It was given in February of 2021. We're just finding it now, sadly, but we've already had some really amazing moments, like when a student said that Donald Trump activated neo-Nazis and white supremacists on January 6th. And we just found this amazing moment where the ADL says they start working with the Portland Public Schools in kindergarten. Kindergarten. All right, that is exporting itself, and it will be on Twitter expeditiously.
What is bias?
It's worth saying we are only 25% of the way through this webinar. We still have an hour and a half to go. So if you need to go get yourself a beverage, it is now after 5 o'clock. Please feel free. If you're not in a time zone where it's after 5 o'clock yet, you can just consider yourself on happy hour time. Go get yourself a beverage. Do whatever you need to do. We got an hour and a half left.
Let's get some common vocabulary built. Bias, in and of itself, is a preference for or against an individual or group that interferes with impartial.
Hang on, we got a super chat from Sean. Sean, thank you for that. These bozos are champs at misusing psychological research. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. That also goes for most of political YouTube, especially the BreadTube variety. Yeah, Reagan, I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I really do. I think today is blackout bingo day. You know, Grandma Nay, it's always 420 somewhere, isn't it? It's always 420 somewhere. I'm just saying. Oh, dude. Bath salts, man. Nice throwback, Brooklyn Way. Bath salts. Bath salts were fucking amazing. I don't want to hear anyone say otherwise. They were awesome. I don't care.
Partial judgment. Bias is something that we all own, something that we all have. We all have preferences. We all have places and ways to categorize. We are pulling in hundreds of thousands of pieces of information every single day. And part of understanding that information that we're pulling in is by linking it to things that we know. And in that is part of our process, that identification, building our schema, contributes to our bias and our understanding. And as you can see, bias in and of itself is not negative. It can be positive or negative, depending on how it is being, how we see it show up in our conversations, in our interactions. As I said, we all have bias. What we're trying to avoid is our explicit bias. The explicit bias is the conscious attitude, stereotype, and overt intentional actions, again, positive or negative, towards members of a group merely because of their membership in that group. That's when it shows up. That's when we see the bias that takes place. However, we all have implicit bias as well. Explicit bias we try to avoid. We're more consciously aware of it. But implicit bias is the unconscious attitude, stereotype, and unintentional action towards members of a group merely because of their membership in that group. It's developed over the course of a lifetime through exposure to direct and indirect messaging. When people are acting out of implicit bias, they may not even know that their actions are biased. And sometimes what we hold internally or our understanding of our implicit bias can actually contradict our explicit bias. So what shows up may actually be different than what we understand internally. Why am I defining all of these words? Because if we don't have a common vocabulary, we can't have a common conversation. So again, it's not about getting rid of bias. It's about understanding our bias and interrupting when that bias is negative. So how does this connect to structural and systemic racism? Race refers to the categories into which society places individuals on the basis of certain physical
Sin, I'm so glad you're here. We might have blackout bingo
it's a
today.
classification system that was created for social and
There's still
political
time,
reasons.
Sin.
For many, many years, people thought that race was a biological construct. It is not a biological construct. We know that it was a social classification system to put one over the other, to give power to some rather than others.
That's not true, but okay.
When we understand what race is, when we think about implicit and explicit biases, we begin to connect it with our understanding of systemic racism. Systemic racism is a combination of systems and factors that advantage white people and people that advantage
Sid,
white
if you need the
people
bingo card, there it
over
is.
people of color. It causes people of color, particularly Black people in the United States, widespread harm and disadvantages in access and
Judy got a
opportunity.
bingo. Congratulations,
One
Judy.
person and even one group of people did not create structural racism. Rather, it has been a system that is created over hundreds of years that we have inherited now. And that is why when we talk with you about how to be an ally,
I hadn't even thought of this, Myriad. I hadn't even thought of this. This is a video that proves that they're teaching CRT and unconscious bias training to kindergarteners. That's exactly right. This, and again, remember, this was posted in February of 2021. So this is not new. This is old. But I thought critical race theory wasn't taught in K through 12 schools.
how to interrupt bias. And when we think about the work of the students now who are championing justice, we are trying to interrupt and to get rid of systemic racism by having a voice. We can't do it alone. It takes us all. Now, how do we know that it's systemic? How do we know it exists? We know because of research. We know that when doctors have spoken with patients and worked with patients, that they have implicitly believed that Black people feel less pain than white people and given them less medication.
How do you know that?
This
Cite the
belief
study.
has
Cite
led
the
to
study. Do
people
it.
like Serena
Cite
Williams
the study.
coming out and talking about her delivery story. We know when people have gone to buy a car through research that people who are Black are typically charged or given estimates that are $700 more than white people. We know that if you're looking for an apartment, you're messaging legislators or you're emailing a university. If your name is more characteristically Black than it is white, that you're going to experience discrimination and less response. We know that in jury convictions, that Black people have been given higher rates of crime and higher rates of punishment than white people. We know that it's not even on here, but we know, for example, that there was a study done in by eBay where a Black hand and a white hand both showed a set of AirPods, and the white hand got more offers than the Black hand. What does this mean? This means that implicit bias,
The National Equity Project. What's that?
is leading towards structural racism.
What is the National
There's
Equity
this
Project?
idea that we have a history of policies, practices, and experiences that have led to inequitable outcomes and racial disparities. And that those inequitable outcomes and racial disparities have led to associations and assumptions, the implicit biases that we hold. With all of this, what we need to think about is that by understanding our biases and by unpacking our own biases, we can begin to dismantle the policies and structures that hold inequity in place. We call this leading from the inside out. And in order to lead to meaningful change, any exploration of implicit bias must be situated as part of a much larger conversation about how current inequities in our institutions came to be and how they are held in place. And what is our role as individuals to increase our own knowledge, to talk to our families, our friends, to think about our spheres of influence.
Two bingos, working our way up.
To understand how racism, classism, sexism, and other forms of systemic oppression operate in our institutions to create advantage for some groups over others and disadvantage groups consistently, such as people of color, Black people, women, LGBTQIA people.
All right.
This happens in every sector.
I'm going to tell you guys something that some of you are not going to want to hear. When are these people going to be jailed for what they're doing to children? Never. Do you want to know why? Because what they are doing is protected speech. It is protected speech. People don't want to hear this, but grooming in schools is protected speech unless there is a specific law on the books outlining what teachers cannot say. If that law doesn't exist, then it is protected speech under the First Amendment. So they will never go to jail. This will not happen. And the reason that I'm telling you guys this, A, you need to hear it. B, if we continue to say stuff like this, we are never going to make any headway in fighting back against these people. So it's not going to happen. We need to look at this situation realistically and understand what we can do within this. But everything that they're saying right now is protected speech. The First Amendment protects speech that we all disagree with, that we think could be morally objectionable. The First Amendment the First Amendment protects speech that is psychologically harmful. The First Amendment protects speech that is psychologically harmful to children. The only speech that the First Amendment doesn't protect is speech that results in imminent bodily harm, or in the cases of schools, because teachers are agents of the state, they are government employees. If there is the ability to pass a law saying you cannot teach this in public schools, but if that law does not exist and it's not on the books, or quite frankly, if it's not enforced, they can say what they want to say.
Of our community life in examples where I shared with you. Our idea here is that by having conversation, by having internal reflection, we can begin to shift the structural inequities and that produce the inequitable outcomes.
I appreciate that. I wasn't
that
like
reinforce harmful stereotypes.
I appreciate that, and I want to say this, that wasn't personal towards you. It's just a thing I hear an awful lot, and it's like there really need to be realistic expectations about what we are able to do and what we are not able to do while still remaining within the bounds of our principles. I don't think that we need to destroy the First Amendment in order to change culture to make stuff like this socially unacceptable.
Stereotypes, which encourage people, which allow for people to live in poverty and injustice, that we hold these low expectations, that we track our students, that we have punitive discipline in schools. But if we begin to reflect internally and hold conversation with people that we talk to on a frequent basis, we can interrupt this cycle. That's what we believe. These incidents and many more like the ones I've just described sit in this larger context of racial segregation. We saw it in the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and and many countless people who have been killed prior to them, who have been punished in the school to prison pipeline. We need to look at ourselves and reflect on who we are and how we can interrupt. We need to pull it from education, health, housing, criminal justice. We need to make sure that we are working to dismantle, disrupt, and engage in meaningful conversations about the inequities that exist. I'm going to ask you to engage in a moment of personal reflection with me.
You can all engage in personal reflection in the chat as well,
you to
if
hold
you would
your
like
hands
to.
in two fists. I cannot see
Oh, God.
the over 100 people who are participating in this meaningful evening. I cannot see what you look like. I cannot see who you are. I cannot see your hands, but I'd like you to hold your hands in two fists in your lap or in front of you. And every time one of these statements is true for you, I want you to raise a finger. I can easily find picture books, postcards.
This
toys,
is fucking
and dolls that
Unpacking the
feature
Invisible
people of my race.
Knapsack. Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack is an essay that was written by a bougie white feminist named Peggy McIntosh in 1989 at Wellesley College, the most elite of the elite. That was just a list of statements that she observed about being a bougie white lady in America, and really doesn't, like, most of the statements that are in that essay today aren't actually still relevant, but it is still brought out on days like this when they need something. These people are so lazy that they can't even update the, what is it? 89, so let's just say 90, 2010, 2000, 2010, 30-year-old essay. It's a 30-year-old essay. They can't even bother to update a 30-year-old essay with no citations.
Television and movies routinely depict people of my race in a wide range of positive roles. I can arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time. I am certain that if I need legal or medical help, my race will not negatively impact me getting that assistance. I can do well in a challenging situation without being perceived as a credit to my race or an exception to the rule. I can be late to a meeting without having the lateness reflect my race. I'm never asked to speak for all the people of my racial group.
I'm asked to speak for all white people all the effing time.
I can take a job with an affirmative action
I think
policy
we all are.
without my coworkers or peers assuming I got it because of my race.
Then why does there need to be an
I can
affirmative
go
action
shopping without
policy?
concern that store employees will follow me and or monitor my actions because of my race. Children in my racial group do not need to be educated about systemic racism for their daily physical safety. Sometimes in today's society, we are getting a bit prickly around the term of privilege. So I think it's important to pause and look at your hands and think about privilege. Privilege is a term for unearned and often unseen or unrecognized advantages, benefits, or rights that are conferred upon people based on their membership in a dominant group in the United States beyond what is commonly experienced by members of a marginalized group. Privilege reveals both obvious and less obvious unspoken advantages that people in the dominant group may not recognize they have, which distinguishes it from overt bias or prejudice.
Shayna got a triple
As we think
bingo.
about
Congratulations,
the cycle that I
Shayna.
described before, as we think about the research that I share, and as you reflect on your own experiences, go ahead and just pause for a moment. What did you notice? How does that make you feel? What can I do now that I know what I know? What you can't share in the chat tonight, please take a moment to reflect on it. Engage in this conversation with somebody else at a future point in time. If not now, later. Take the learning with you from tonight into conversations with people that you see on a regular basis. We know that systemic changes are going to take many decades. There are pressing questions for me, and I imagine for some others like me, if we raise our daily consciousness on the prerequisites of being light-skinned. So what will we do with this knowledge?
Peggy McIntosh.
This is written by author Peggy McIntosh, who wrote The
Bougie,
Invisible
white,
Knapsack,
liberal.
and wrote another follow-up piece as well, reflecting on her life as a white woman with colleagues who were not, and she acknowledged the privileges that she was inheriting based solely on the color of her skin. So how do we disrupt racial justice? We must be willing to move from safe to brave spaces. We have to take risks and stand together to create a world of difference. We have to remember what the students of Ida B. Wells said. An ally is someone who has privilege, but chooses to stand for and with marginalized communities by taking tangible, ongoing actions to dissolve oppression. I've laid the groundwork. I've laid the context. What we're going to do now is I'm going to share some strategies and ways to think about engaging in these very difficult conversations. One thing we know is we have to start at the heart of it. Lately, there has been lots of conversation around what is anti-racist. How is this different from anti-bias? I'm going to start with what do both anti-racist and anti-bias have in common? They both require self-reflection, recognition, admission and understanding of our place and space in this world, and self-critique. We're working towards a more egalitarian society. We know that anti-bias and anti-racism is not an endpoint. We know it is a process.
Triple bingo! Congratulations.
The roots of racism work can be found in abolitionism. It was about breaking down prisons and other institutions that perpetuated racism.
Well, I'm glad we're admitting that the root of anti-racist work is abolitionism. That's good.
We're hearing a lot
activism
from authors like Ibram Kendi, who are talking about anti-racism and saying that we're not working at a spectrum of one being the opposite of other, but again, that we're engaging in reflection, recognition, and admission.
Did you get a blackout bingo?
So that
Phil, did you get a blackout bingo? Or did you pass out? I'm going to be very excited if you got a blackout bingo, but you might just be saying that you've passed out from boredom and or like annoyance. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. They put an ad in. Phil, you got a blackout bingo? Congrats. Phil! Our first ever blackout bingo. I'm so excited. Oh. That's awesome. Congratulations, Phil. You have bragging rights for life. Incognito just needs capitalism for blackout bingo. Incognito, not be surprised if you made it there today. I would not be surprised. We could have a whole round of blackout bingos today. Friday, happy hour on Friday will be in honor of Phil. First ever blackout bingo. I'm really excited about this. We've been waiting for a long time. I wish I had some confetti or something ready to go.
We can engage in these meaningful conversations to the systems that exist. The work of the ADL is to really ground our conversations in anti-bias. It's to really begin to think about how do we engage in these difficult conversations so we can make the systemic and structural changes that are necessary. We believe that if we don't have conversations about understanding bias and how it influences who we are and how we are influenced by it, both and, then we cannot engage in the difficult process of dismantling racism and supremacy that exists in our society. We know we're going to be uncomfortable.
This is a great idea, Reagan. This is a great idea. We will all get a bonus square on Friday's happy hour. Again, that's on my second channel, youtube.com/actively-unwoke. Everyone gets a free square on Friday in honor of Phil. And I want to see some confetti. I want to see some celebrations in the chat. This is a big deal, guys. We have been waiting almost 2 effing years for a full blackout bingo. It's amazing. Well done. Well done.
We know that we will grow, and we know that our goal is not to make you feel unsafe, but to live with some discomfort so that you get comfortable having a conversation that will move the needle. We want to start reframe our conversations. We move from I don't see color to understanding that bias is universal and that my privilege and unconscious racism have protected me from recognizing how I am racist. I think about my own journey, and I remember
Hang on.
when
What
my
is
parents,
this?
who I don't believe
53
knew the depth of this, said, I don't see color. And the intention of that statement was not to be harmful, but by saying I don't see color, we are simply saying that I don't see part of who you are. So we move from that to understanding that bias is universal and understanding our privilege.
Oh,
we move from
Andrew. The National Equity Project say they've worked with Burlington area school districts. I am shocked. I am, imagine my shock that the National Equity Project has worked with the most woke school district in the entire country. Burlington. Not Portland so far as I know yet. And the reason I say Burlington is more woke is because Burlington, I mean, maybe Portland has done this, I don't know, but Burlington is actually allocating money to their schools based on equity. They've integrated an equity line item in their budget.
I'm not racist or biased, and I don't judge people based on their race, which may be true, to moving to, I actually have bias and I can change my behavior. And that by continuously reflecting on my racist beliefs and behaviors, I can strive to act in a more anti-racist, anti-biased way. We move from saying bias and racism are not big problems in my community to acknowledging I can help my community better understand and challenge biases, to then even moving further and saying I can call out and advocate for the abolition of racism in my community's cultures and policies. We look at the work of these students who are leading this evening and who are talking explicitly about reflecting on the title of their school and who is welcome and how to feel welcome. And we look at the abolition and the change in their culture, their policies, the practices. So how do we engage in the talk? We set a safe and respectful place. We think about that trusting environment that I described moments ago. We define terms like we did today. We notice it, we name it. We connect our past to our present. We acknowledge, for example, that the police system began as a way to capture free Blacks and put them back into systems of oppression.
No.
And we look at that and how it is shown, how it shows up today in
55,
our inequitable
police are
implementation
racist.
of the policing system. We understand perspective. I can only share my perspective as a white, heterosexual, cisgender female. And we acknowledge that that perspective matters, and we listen to other perspectives. We think critically about the media. We know that typically we tend to watch the same channel, the same perspectives. I challenge you to look at different perspectives on the media, to break out of
I
your
wonder if
norm
she's ever
and
watched
to
Fox.
think critically and have meaningful conversation about the perspectives that come
You mean
from both
like watching
sides.
Fox News instead of MSNBC?
Talk about structural racism
Is that
and
what we're
white
talking about
privilege.
here?
Think about the activity
Oh,
and reflection
probably
we
not.
had earlier today.
That doesn't count.
Encourage empathy, inspire hope and activism. Engage in identity self-reflection. You cannot be empathetic, you cannot inspire hope, and you cannot be active in this work unless you identify and understand who you are. And work to increase representation from multiple perspectives whenever possible. So these are things we know we need to do to talk about race. The question is, how do I do that? Be respectful. Acknowledge that this is really difficult. It's really complicated. Be vulnerable. Admit when you don't know. I don't understand. Can you tell me more about that? Admit to making mistakes and commit to change. Apologize and learn and move forward. Be accountable. Ask people when you see bias. Address it. Address it in yourself. Address it in your friends. Address it in your family. Reflect. internalize what you learn, and journal. We want to encourage you to use resources. This is not something that you need to do alone. The ADL has a tremendous amount of resources.
Got a super chat. Hang on a second. Thank you, Sean, for the super chat. Oregon has set up to provide money and resources at a state level based on equity. Portland does too, not just an ed. Need to look at government budgeting details. Yeah, that would be, so maybe Burlington and Portland are competing for the first American city built on equity. Maybe they are. I don't know. So in the school system, they have a specific equity line item where schools get allocated a certain amount of money based on underrepresented populations or marginalized the amount of marginalized students that they have in that they have in that specific school. And that money specifically goes towards funding equity programs. We don't know what those programs are, but we're going to FOIA that shit. So we've got Commie East and Commie West, apparently.
About current issues and current events. One of my favorites is our Table Talk section. If you go to the adl.org and you type in Table Talks, you will get strategies and tools and a protocol, a process to engage in a conversation about current issues. We also have books that matter. We choose books that are representative of different authors and different people, that tell the stories of lots of different identities. And we encourage you to read these books and have conversations about them. Many of our books have family discussion guides. We want to acknowledge that the ADL is not the only place where there are resources. Look into research. The Pew Research Center and the Kirwan Institute have done lots of work in understanding prejudice and bias. Listen to podcasts. I've put the 1619 podcast. There's also Seeing White, and there is also Code Switch. These are all podcasts to listen to. There are movies, especially this month. There are a lot of movies being featured on Netflix, Hulu, any streaming service that you may have. Watch things like 13th, which is a documentary. Watch personal stories and historical fiction. American Son is one of the best movies I have seen in years. Watch, read Just Mercy. Watch, read Jason Reynolds and Ibram Kendi's Stamped. There are a tremendous number of books, including many, as I said, that have been mentioned recently on the ADL website, but there are articles and other places to turn as well.
Podcasts will save us all.
So with that, I want to say thank you so much for listening to me. And I'm going to turn it over to Principal Lisa Newland from Robert Gray Middle School so that she can share with you how this work has expanded.
All right, congratulations. We made it probably through the toughest portion of the presentation.
It's a pleasure to see you tonight.
Mount that like button if you're still with me.
Robert Gray is proud to partner with ADL in our work with No Place for Hate. I am Lisa Newland. You can refer to me out of the room as she, her. I'm a Wilson High School class of '89 alum and a proud Ida B. Wells Barnett High School class of 2022-2023 parent. And currently I'm the principal at Robert Gray Middle School. My role tonight is to uplift the voices of the Robert Gray student leadership team as they have led our community as a No Place for Hate school. Special thanks to our vice principal.
Wait, are you serious? Is this real? Is this real? Portland State University has a sign in a window of a building saying capitalism is cannibalism. I want a photo. I want receipts.
Jeffrey Waters and our leadership team, Mr. CJ Mead, who have channeled our student energy and drive to work closely with our ADL partner and Dr. Nash. Dr. Nash, our slide deck has the words of our students, and I'd love for our audience to see how the commitment to being a No Place for Hate school has had such an impact on the personal lives of our students. And I want to uplift those words tonight. On January 18th, we launched our pledge drive, which has thus far reached 332 responses from students, staff, and parents in the Robert Gray community. That is a great start, but we have a long way to go. As you can see, reading through, the words of our students speak for themselves. Robert Gray is proud to accept VP Connie.
Oh, we've got confirmation from Lobo. Can verify the PSU sign got out before they went full commie. Does anyone have a picture of this sign? I would love a picture.
And Principal Priestich's request to join our effort so that we may stand together as a Southwest Portland community of students, parents, and residents who are committed to speaking out, reaching out, and promoting respect for all. As you move into the break tonight, please take a moment to click on the link in the chat so that you may add your voice and pledge.
Will
that
you
our
all be
Wells High
signing
School
the
community
pledge?
Is no place for hate. Thank you so much.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm Holly Pruitt. I'm a neighbor and an ally to the students presenting tonight. I got involved when I saw hate symbols and hate graffiti increasing around Southwest schools and parks over the last year. And so I was really...
I know there are a bunch of people in Portland watching right now, so I'm just going to ask. I have heard several times now, like looking at the Portland School District website and watching stuff like this, I've heard several times them talk about the increase in hate speech that happened in Portland. What the ever-loving F are they actually talking about? Did that actually happen, or is that all made up? I know there are several people from Portland here. I know I can rely on you for answers.
Excited to learn about the commitment to being a no place for hate community here at Ida B. Wells Barnett and in the Southwest middle schools. And so I really appreciate the chance to join as a community member in taking the pledge and encourage everyone else to do that too. I've also just really enjoyed learning from all of the hard work that the students have put in. I was just really impressed by each of the speakers in the first part of the program, and I'm looking forward to the tough and the courageous call to action that they're going to share with us in the next part of the program. I think that Manar is going to start us off.
Hi everyone, I'm Manar and I'm a senior at Ida B. Wells Barnett High School. We, No Place for Hate peer facilitators, have a call to action to share with you today.
As a reminder, we don't make fun of kids.
Black Muslim woman, having allies
not their
is
fault.
very important to me. Part of being an ally to minorities is making sure they know that they are loved and worthy. You can do this by listening.
I do think it's extremely emotionally manipulative. Okay, we don't make fun of kids when we're watching this stuff because, and you guys got to remember this in the chat, I will block you and remove your comment if you do this. Other people are going to see the comments that are made in this chat. Okay? We do not make fun of kids. It is not their fault that they are in this scenario. But I do find it incredibly emotionally manipulative that that she came on and looks very young and has said, being an ally is very, like, people like me need allies. Like, they're trying to manipulate people. Which is, again, not her fault. Not her fault. But it is emotionally manipulative by adults.
Listening to their stories and giving them the space to express how they're feeling. This will make them feel seen and heard because oftentimes they are overlooked or slandered by the media. As white allies, you can use your privilege to uplift the voices of marginalized communities. And that begins by listening. Showing up today and listening is one way you're being an ally. But you can do more. You can demonstrate that there's no place for hate in this community, sign petitions and participate in protests, learn how to interrupt racist incidents, use your social media platform to raise awareness about important issues. With that being said,
it's not okay for anyone to attack kids. But in this chat, we are going to be better than the people that we're fighting. And a lot of people on the right now don't want to be better than the left. A lot of people on the right want to be the same as the left. I am not on the right or the left. And so I'm not playing by either of their tribalist rules. We do not attack children. People on the left shouldn't be attacking children. People on the right shouldn't be attacking children either. No one should be attacking children. It is not their fault.
You should really ask yourself why you want to be a better ally. It shouldn't be because you want to be seen as woke by other people. It shouldn't be performative. It should be because you want your community to be safe and inclusive for everyone.
Hang on.
These are just a few things you can do to be
Seen
better
as woke,
allies.
104.
Remember, being an ally is not a one-time thing. You have to continue to show up when you see injustice. Allyship is a 24/7 commitment. Thank you for listening. And now Celia is going to share with you some more ways of how to respond to racism and discrimination.
Thank you to Manar for introducing our call to action about the power of being an.
Well, I'm going to be really honest. I find it to be an incredible double standard on the right for them to say, what about the left? What about the left? What about the left? And then behave exactly like the left behaves. I find that to be a double standard. I do not care about these. These arguments are not going to get you guys anywhere. The whataboutism, that's not what we're doing here.
Ally. Hi, I'm Celia, and I'm a senior at Ida B. Wells Burnett High School, and I'm going to be speaking about ways that we can use active allyship to address discrimination within our own community. We live in a diverse country with people of different races, ethnicities, sexualities, religions, and physical abilities. Just because we are a part of a community that is actively advocating for an anti-racist environment does not mean that we still don't see a lot of discrimination here. This is why it is so important to be aware of what is happening around us and keep an eye out for ways that we can all act as allies. When an incident of discrimination takes place, the first step is to acknowledge it. Whoever you are, you have a role in de-escalating these types of events. Take the right action in order for the audience to firmly understand that hate is not tolerated within our community. We can't always prevent discrimination from happening, but we can foster in an environment where it is not condoned. Remember that you are not the judge of how harmful it is, so take action no matter the gravity of the situation. Racist incidents, for example, do not always happen in the physical and violent ways that we often see on TV these days, but also as microaggressions and through harmful language. It is easy to see threats to physical safety, but remember the importance of emotional safety as well.
Wow.
People of color who face racism are often told to suck it up, as our society does not give enough weight to emotional.
Hey, Phil, are you in the Unwoke Army Discord? If you are, I created a Portland channel today. If you want to drop that stuff in the Portland channel, please feel free to do so. If you're not in the Unwoke Army Discord, let me know, and I will shoot me an email, and I'll make sure you get in before tomorrow's webinar.
Safety. Everyone deserves to feel safe and accepted in their school, workplace, and greater community. Now that you have acknowledged the problem, what does taking action look like? Here's a few things to remember. First, you should never call out the target in any way, shape, or form. Never force them into the spotlight to educate others. As an ally, that is your job. Second, make a public announcement that racism is not tolerated in our community. Third, decide as a community what you will improve to prevent similar incidents from taking place.
She's literally teaching them how to start a struggle session. All right, we're clipping this. Sorry, doing it on the fly. We're clipping her. She's literally starting a struggle session, is what's going on. All right, stand by.
These are just a few things you can do to be better allies. Remember, being an ally is not a one-time thing. You have to continue to show up when you see injustice. Allyship is a 24/7 commitment. Thank you for listening. And now Celia is going to share with you some more ways of how to respond to racism and discrimination.
Thank you to Manar for introducing our call to action about the power of being an ally. Hi, I'm Celia, and I'm a senior at Ida B. Wells Burnett High School, and I'm going to be speaking about ways that we can use active allyship to address discrimination within our own community. We live in a diverse country with people of different races, ethnicities, sexualities, religions, and physical abilities. Just because we are a part of a community that is actively advocating for an anti-racist environment does not mean that we still don't see a lot of discrimination here. This is why it is so important to be aware of what is happening around us and keep an eye out for ways that we can all act as allies. When an incident of discrimination takes place, the first step is to acknowledge it. Whoever you are, you have a role in de-escalating these types of events. Take the right action in order for the audience to firmly understand that hate is not tolerated within our community. We can't always prevent discrimination from happening, but we can foster in an environment where it is not condoned. Remember that you are not the judge of how harmful it is, so take action no matter the gravity of the situation. Racist incidents, for example, do not always happen in the physical and violent ways that we often see on TV these days, but also as microaggressions and through harmful language. It is easy to see threats to physical safety, but remember the importance of emotional safety as well. People of color who face racism are often told to suck it up, as our society does not give enough weight to emotional safety. Everyone deserves to feel safe and accepted in their school, workplace, and greater community. Now that you have acknowledged the problem, what does taking action look like? Here's a few things to remember. First, you should never call out the target in any way, shape, or form. Never force them into the spotlight to educate others. As an ally, that is your job. Second, make a public announcement that racism is not tolerated in our community. Third, decide as a community what you will improve to prevent similar incidents from taking place in the future. For example, hold a restorative conversation and explain why it is not tolerated. Create or enforce policies and rules for how the situation will be monitored or dealt with in the future, ensuring consequence to the perpetrators. It is not about resolving the issue between two people, but instead asking yourself, how can I make my community a safer place and protect targeted individuals? Thank you for listening to my call to action, and now Mia is going to share a similar message along with many community resources she has consolidated in a way that is creative and artistic.
All right. Got to get my clip. Got to get my clip for that one. That is scary. It is always so scary to me when we literally watch children before our very eyes become like little woke SJW activists. It really is. And you got to know, again, you have to know this is not coming from the kids. This is coming from the parents. This is coming from the not necessarily the parents and the schools. And it's just so sad. It's so sad. Okay, let me just get this at the right timing. Hang on. Okay. All right. Got that. Thank you guys for bearing with me. This is a great time to mount the like button if you have not mounted that like button already. I do appreciate it. Okay. Got that clipped. I just got to make it pretty. Oh my goodness. I can't wait to see the creative way they wanted people to become allies in this next portion here. Okay. Got her. Export, Portland, struggle, session, guidance. All right, that's exporting now. All right, guys, let's keep going. Sweet Phil, thank you, appreciate it.
Right now, we need allies more than ever. And the first step to being an ally
I smell another
is to
clip
educate
coming.
yourself. But what does that mean? That can be really daunting for a lot of people. Where do you start? How do you do it? What are the end goals? And why is it important? Well, it's important so that you know what's going on before you go out and help. It's important so that you don't rely on your BIPOC friends.
Okay.
BIPOC being Black, Indigenous, and
Hang on. Before this creative presentation goes any farther, let me just start the clip. Just so we don't have to watch it over again. I wasn't expecting this. Holy hell. Let's just start it over and do the clip in real time. Let's just do it. Let's just acknowledge what's about to happen. All right.
Thank you for listening to my call to action, and now Mia is going to share a similar message along with many community resources she has consolidated in a way that is creative and artistic.
Right now, we need allies more than ever. And the first step to being an ally is to educate yourself. But what does that mean? That can be really daunting for a lot of people. Where do you start? How do you do it? What are the end goals? And why is it important? Well, it's important so that you know what's going on before you go out and help. It's important so that you don't rely on your BIPOC friends, BIPOC being Black, Indigenous, and people of color, to educate you. It's not their job to educate you, it's your job, so that you can be a supportive ally who knows what's going on
what historical events and institutionalized systems are causing what's going on, and what you can do to help. But how? I know that the beginning of your allyship journey can be a little scary, so here are my 3 tips on how to educate yourself. Step number 1, know your objectives. The main point of being an ally is being a productive, helpful, and knowledgeable ally who can step in when needed. Which means you need to know a couple of things, including what is race? How does it affect you? How does it affect people of color? What are your privileges? And how do those affect your inevitable role in perpetuating racism? You also need to know what's going on. What are the current events going on due to racism? You also need to know why is it going on? What are the causes of these current events and issues? What historical events influence these issues? What systems, whether businesses, hiring processes, education, law enforcement codes, etc., influence these events and issues? And last but not least, you need to know what you can do to help, whether that be right now or in the current future. These are your objectives. Write them down, and by the end of your research, you should be able to answer all of them. Maybe not perfectly, but just try your best. Step number 2 is know how you like to learn. There are so many different resources, whether books, podcasts, YouTube videos, articles, and documentaries, and more. You don't have to use all of them. Find out what you like and customize your learning to that. And tip number 3, set manageable goals. Don't try to do everything all at once and then quit. Take it one step at a time. Set a goal that fits your schedule, whether that means reading 1 book a month, watching 1 movie a week, watching 1 video per day. Do what works for you. For those of you looking for resources, I have made a Google Classroom called Social Justice that you can join, and it has tons of resources on how you can educate yourself to be a better ally. In this Google Classroom, there are lots of lessons that you can either go through yourself or teach to students. There are specific lessons for different curriculums like psychology and biology with a critical race lens. Also included in this Google Classroom is a Google Sheets I've been working on with lists of books, podcasts, with YouTube playlists, movies, PDX, Black-owned businesses, and more that you can go support and use to help educate yourself. I hope you guys are all taking care of yourselves during this time, and I hope that you guys all stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, Mia, for sharing those community-based resources.
I want that Google Classroom. I need that Google Classroom. I need that Google Classroom in my life. Someone has to help me get access to that Google Classroom. Please. I don't know how we're going to work that out. I don't know how we're going to find it. But wait, hang on. I do vaguely remember there may be resources in the link. Oh, no, it's the pledge. Hang on, let me see if I can see any of this stuff. Feedback, I can see the feedback thing. No, that's not giving me a link. I want the Google Classroom. Oh my God, I want it so bad. I have never wanted to see inside one of these classrooms so much in my life. How did people feel about that? That was crazy. That made me feel bad. I did not like watching that at all. Let me see if I can edit this real quick. Oh my gosh, I think this might actually be too long for Twitter, but that's okay. Yeah, it's gonna be too... Only if we get into the... Oh gosh. Alright, I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with that clip later, because it's a little bit too long for Twitter, but that was nuts. Alright, let's keep going, and we're gonna figure out what to do with that clip later.
Resources with us. Hi, I'm Lee. Using the resources provided by Mia gives us a foundation to being an anti-racist community, but we need to do more than educate ourselves. We need to repair the harm that's been done, bringing us to reparations. Reparations are a way to make amends for those who have wrongly suffered at the hands of others. There are 3 types: systemic, organizational, and interpersonal. Systemic looks like governments or systems helping to repair the damage caused by systemic oppression, such as the $20,000 payment to Japanese American families wrongly put into internment camps during World War II. Another example of systemic reparations are the ones the Black Lives Matter movement are calling for. Organizational looks like a group or organization addressing the harm of oppressive situations by helping those harmed by oppression. And interpersonal looks like individuals taking responsibility for repairing damage, often referred to as restorative justice. Reparations can come in the form of money, resources, focusing on interpersonal, who we organizations that support the community. Examining systemic issues and knowing who is hurt by them is the way to understand who needs the support. It is important to acknowledge that your best effort is relative to your ability, and your effort will look different than someone else's. This segment of tonight's event is intended for those who can afford to give more. It is not meant to create stress. Reparations are an important way to act on your privilege. If you are someone who has advantages based on your identity,
Oh my
reparations
God.
are a way to
Oh
support those
my
who have been harmed
God.
by oppression.
Oh
Simply
my
recognizing your
God.
privilege is not enough. It is one step in the process of
Oh
healing systemic injustice.
my God. They have a student arguing in favor of reparations at a school-sponsored effing event. All right, we're clipping it. I'm sorry. I know we're making some clips, but this is part of the purpose of why we're doing this stream. I'm watching it again. We're going to clip this shit. Wow. I cannot with these people. Who thinks this is okay? Again, we're not making fun of the students. All right.
Thank you, Mia, for sharing those community-based resources with us. Hi, I'm Lee. Using the resources provided by Mia gives us a foundation to being an anti-racist community, but we need to do more than educate ourselves. We need to repair the harm that's been done, bringing us to reparations. Reparations are a way to make amends for those who have wrongly suffered at the hands of others. There are three types: systemic, organizational, and interpersonal. Systemic looks like governments or systems helping to repair the damage caused by systemic oppression, such as the $20,000 payment to Japanese American families wrongly put into internment camps during World War II. Another example of systemic reparations are the ones the Black Lives Matter movement are calling for. Organizational looks like a group or organization addressing the harm of oppressive situations by helping those harmed by oppression. And interpersonal looks like individuals taking responsibility for repairing damage, often referred to as restorative justice. Reparations can come in the form of money, resources, and time. Tonight we are focusing on interpersonal, where we urge you to support organizations that support the community and press the government to do more. Examining systemic issues and knowing who is hurt by them is a way to understand who needs the support. It is important to acknowledge that your best effort is relative to your ability, and your effort will look different than someone else's. This segment of tonight's event is intended for those who can afford to give more. It is not meant to create stress. Reparations are an important way to act on your privilege. If you are someone who has advantages based on your identity, reparations are a way to support those who have been harmed by oppression. Simply recognizing your privilege is not enough. It is one step in the process of healing systemic injustices. It is difficult to measure what your best is and looks like when supporting others, but we are here to help with this. There's a huge difference between our wants and our needs. Wants are extras in your life that you don't depend on. Needs are what you require to survive. Take a second to think about what wants you have in your life that you can live without. If you were to spend the time, money, or energy that goes into that want into supporting your community instead, what change could you make? Take time to understand who you are and what more you can be doing to support those in times of social-political turmoil. Your voice, actions, and resources can make more change than you think. We urge those who are able to do more. Thank you for hearing our call to action about reparations. Now, we are going to hear what our fellow peer facilitator, Anissa, has to offer as part of our call to action.
What the fuck? Did this student just try to guilt trip people into not doing things that they want to do so instead they can give to reparations? Is that what just happened? This is like one of those Save the Pets videos. Which I don't mind the Save the Pets videos, but like, wow. Holy shit. All right, hang on. Let me just clip this real quick. I think this one will fit on Twitter. So let me just do this real quick. Oh, man. Okay, I've got 2 seconds here that I need to get back. Hang on one sec, guys. Bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me just 1 second. Just need to get it exactly to 2:20 so I can clip it and put it on Twitter. Okay, I got it. I got it. All right, guys, please mount that like button if you think that if you think that it's crazy for a school district to put a student on the internet talking about how people need to not give like not have fun on the weekend so they can give reparations for people. If you think that's a little bit crazy, please mount that like button for me. This is not the student's fault, remember, not the student's fault. They are victims of this as much as anyone. But I think that's a little crazy what we just saw. Portland Public Schools put students on the internet at a school-sponsored event begging for fucking reparations. God damn it. All right, let's keep going. That's exporting. We still got a good 40 minutes left to go, guys. Hang in
Action for our
there.
community. Hello, I'm Anissa. I'm a junior at Ida B. Wells Barnett High School. With the help of my friend and co-facilitator Anne, I'm going to build on what Lee has discussed and talk about the other side of the story you should not be doing. To set the tone, I'm going to run through a scenario. So Tom decides to be an activist. He pulls out his phone and he tweets, #BlackLivesMatter. Congratulations, Tom. You've solved systemic racism. Okay, no he hasn't. But he has to feel better about himself now. More importantly, this is where his activism ends.
Now they're going to shame people. Now they're going to shame people. And they're going to say, if all you do is tweet Black Lives Matter, you are engaging in performative activism. Mark my words. If like someone owes me a $2 super chat if I'm right about this, she's going to shame people and say, if all you do is tweet, that is performative and that is just not good enough. Okay, no one owes me a $2 super chat. That's just a joke.
Other people validate his support is the one thing that matters to him. Earlier in our call to action, Manar mentioned social media as a powerful tool to create positive change. However, social media activism only goes so far without follow-through when you are presented with racism in your everyday environment. You may have heard of the term performative activism, which Manar also raised, but what does it actually mean? It is when an individual partakes in activism but has no care for the cause and only is doing it for the social capital. This could be posted on Instagram about Black Lives Matter or buying a loss sign just because everyone...
Okay, I'm sorry. We have to clip this for my own entertainment. I'm sorry, guys. I know we apparently just got into the student crazy portion part of our presentation, but like, come on. Come on. Bro. This is just too good. I love it. I love it. Well, yes, this is the $2 Carlin was right tip jar. Tom J! Thank you, Tom J! I appreciate it. I love it when they get angry and persnickety with each other. King Phil of the chat asked me to record it. He asked me to clip it, so I have to. Phil is the king for the day. He got blackout bingo. He's now King Phil of the chat to join King Peter of the chat. All right, let's okay.
Social political turmoil. Your voice, actions, and resources can make more change than you think. We urge those who are able to do more. Thank you for hearing our call to action about reparations. Now, we are going to hear what our fellow peer facilitator, Anissa, has to offer as part of our call to action for our community.
Hello, I'm Anissa. I'm a junior at Ida B. Wells Barnett High School. With the help of my friend and co-facilitator Anne, I'm going to build on what Lee has discussed and talk about the other side of the story, what you should not be doing. To set the tone, I'm going to run through a scenario. So Tom decides to be an activist. He pulls out his phone and he tweets, hashtag Black Lives Matter. Congratulations, Tom. You solved systemic racism. Okay, no, he hasn't. But he has to feel better about himself now. More importantly, this is where his activism ends. Having other people validate his support is the one thing that matters to him. Earlier in our call to action, Bernard mentioned social media as a powerful tool to create positive change. However, social media activism only goes so far without follow through when you are presented with racism in your everyday environment. You may have heard of the term performative activism, which Bernard also raised, but what does it actually mean? It is when an individual partakes in activism but has no care for the cause and only is doing it for the social capital. This could be posted on Instagram about Black Lives Matter or buying a law sign just because everyone else is doing it. Performative activism doesn't foster personal growth, it discourages it. When confronting white guilt, exempting oneself is not the answer. Saying the right things to separate yourself from the crowd while you don't change your behavior to reflect your words is purely performative. We are now in the month of Black History. Against the backdrop of performative activism, Black History Month offers the opportunity to decolonize and reclaim untold fragments of history. However, the window for education goes beyond these 4 weeks. The crux of performative activism is its temporary nature. The issues affecting Black people will continue beyond the time they are in hashtags and the news. We must value human lives, especially when they are not trendy. None of this is to say buying law signs, t-shirts, or posting on social media to support equity movements is inherently bad, as long as the profits from products you buy go directly to the movements and not companies trying to capitalize on wokeness. $20 to H&M does nothing to help Black people. However, when you use these things as an excuse to not do more, for instance, oh, I've signed a petition, I've done enough, you are no longer acting as an ally. To put this all together, performative activism is identified by intent. To check if your activism is performative or not, answer the question, would I do this anonymously? Remember to challenge your own biases just as you do other people's.
Wow, I was
Thank you,
dying.
Anissa, for
Hang on,
sharing
hang
that
on.
powerful call to
Oh,
action about how to.
Weiwei is back with different hair. They must have filmed this several times. Yo, I'm getting so many clips right now. I'm like in clip fucking insanity. All right, let me see. We just exported our reparations clip. Now we're going to do our performative activism clip. I just like that was fabulous. That was everything that I hoped it would be and probably more. Again, not the fault of the student, fault of the teacher. All right. Oh, let's pray this can fit under 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I don't know if it can. Man. Okay, I'm gonna have to work out how to best clip that a little later. So we're gonna add this to the clips too long for Twitter thing that I'm making, which is separate than the other thing. And we're gonna keep going. Thank you guys for that interlude where we learned that performative activism is. We had our little struggle session moment. I feel like we all needed that.
To avoid performative allyship. My name is Weiwei, and I'm a junior at Ida B. Wells Barnett High School. The topic of hate and all forms of aggressions related.
Bot? Are you shitting me? Bot got us into the course room. Bot, I love you. I love you. I do. I'm so grateful that you made a new Twitter account after I blocked you and came back into my life. Bot got us into the social justice classroom. Well done, Bot. Well done. This is amazing. All right. Bot, please put that in the Unwoke Army Discord in the Portland channel, please. I know you're in there because you've been doing other stuff. Let us all share the wealth of this momentous. This is, guys, this is why the Unwoke Army is awesome and why you should all join us in the Unwoke Army. Come to the webinar we're doing tomorrow night, or I'm doing tomorrow night. You can register at unwokearmy.com. Sign up for the webinar. Even if you can't make it to tomorrow night's webinar, like you can't make it live, sign up anyway, because you'll get emailed the recording of the webinar after it's done, so you can watch it when you have time. But this is going to be like the entryway for the Unwoke Army. This is a group activity where we're doing stuff like this. We're going to find clips. We're going to expose schools. We're going to look at documents. We're going to do all the boring journalism shit that the journalists are refusing to do. This webinar is 1.5 years old. I should not be the first person reporting on this webinar. But we're going to make this a group activity. We're going to make it be fun. And I'll tell you what, it feels really, really good when you get your stuff shown everywhere. So guys, head over to unwokearmy.com and you can sign up to join us for the webinar tomorrow night.
To hate is very complex. Caddison and I want to close by sharing a call to action about why it is important to talk to your children and your families about hate, a topic which Miss Nash so thoughtfully already spoke with us tonight. According to Dr. Susan Lin of Partners Against Hate, it is best if children's early experiences of similarities and differences amongst a group of people is positive rather than negative. What's most important is to fill their lives with as many positive experiences with diversity as possible. There is no right way to talk to your kids about marginalized groups and the hate experienced, but these conversations are vital when creating a social justice-oriented and anti-racist, anti-hate attitude within your family and community. Because of this, the conversation will look different for every single family. Although children are not born with prejudice by early childhood, they have already acquired stereotypes and negative attitudes to those that they perceive as others.
Of course.
An article in Buffalo News reports that about 85% of the brain develops between ages 3 and 5, and that impressions and ideas formed between ages 2 and 4 are lasting. Being adopted from China aged 3.5 and being raised Jewish, my mom appreciated Chinese culture. And so we had many friends and professionals like my doctor and dentist who looked like me. I was bar mitzvahed and was able to identify with people who were just like me. And I could love myself for who I am. For parents, it's important for children to be raised with multicultural, racial, and dimensional experiences. Non-POC families need to have conversations with their kids about race and anti-Semitism and transphobia and all forms of hate, not just those who have to deal with this on a daily basis. In research shown, 200 children they studied had racial biases by age 6. Over the last 4 years, anti-Semitic acts worldwide has exploded. In 2019, there was a 12% increase. When it comes to talking to children about racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or any other forms of hatred, it is important to begin the process as early as possible. As children develop from infants to toddlers around 18 months of age, they begin to recognize their own features and if given choice, will often choose the doll of their own color. If teaching children how to be anti-racist is not taught or addressed at an early age, then white children in particular will grow up not understanding and more than likely contributing to our countries and communities.
Okay. I wasn't going to clip this kid. I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to do it until he said that. He's going to get a short clip. There's going to be a short one.
And your families about hate, a topic which Miss Nash so thoughtfully already spoke with us tonight.
I wasn't going to clip this kid until he said that, like, white parents especially need to talk to their kids about racism. Otherwise, they're going to be like, what did he say? White parents need to talk to their kids about anti-racism. Otherwise, they're going to become racist. We're just going to make a short one on this one.
According to Dr. Susan Lin of Partners Against Hate, it is best if children's early experiences of similarities and differences amongst a group of people is positive rather than negative. What's most important is to fill their lives with as many positive experiences with diversity as possible. There is no right way to talk to your kids about marginalized groups and the hate experience, but these conversations are vital when creating a social justice oriented and anti-racist, anti-hate attitude within your family and community. Because of this, the conversation will look different for every single family. Although children are not born with prejudice by early childhood, they have already acquired stereotypes and negative attitudes to those that they perceive as others. An article in Buffalo News reports that about 85% of the brain develops between ages 3 and 5, and that impressions and ideas formed between ages 2 and 4 are lasting. Being adopted from China aged 3.5 and being raised Jewish, my mom appreciated Chinese culture. And so we had many friends and professionals like my doctor and dentist who looked like me. I was bar mitzvahed and was able to identify with people who were just like me. And I could love myself for who I am. For parents, it's important for children to be raised with multicultural, racial, and dimensional experiences. Non-POC families need to have conversations with their kids about race and anti-Semitism and transphobia and all forms of hate, not just those who have to deal with this on a daily basis. In research shown, 200 children they studied had racial biases by age 6. Over the last 4 years, anti-Semitic acts worldwide has exploded. In 2019, there was a 12% increase. When it comes to talking to children about racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or any other forms of hatred, it is important to begin the process as early as possible. As children develop from infants to toddlers around 18 months of age, they begin to recognize their own features and if given a choice, will often choose the doll of their own color. If teaching children how to be anti-racist is not taught or addressed at an early age, then white children in particular will grow up not understanding and more than likely contributing to our country's and community's current problems involving race and racism in particular. Systems and institutions cannot change.
Okay, that's where I'm going to end the clip. I went back a little bit further than I thought I did. That's crazy. That's next level crazy. I mean, I really shouldn't be surprised. I need to stop being surprised every time one of these kids says something that is crazy. And again, not the kid's fault. Not the kid's fault. Okay, hang on. I'm just going to find the best spot for the clip. Got it. I might go back and make another clip of this at some point. Let me see where I'm at. 119. So we got 118. Kids are racist. I just want to get this one section where he's talking about how white parents have a responsibility to do this. So hang on. Got to make it look pretty now. I got the time thing down. Thank you guys for bearing with me. This is the important stuff. Like, again, anytime you're doing stuff like this, you want to make sure you're getting the clips of these students as much as possible. Again, not because we're ridiculing students, because we never, ever, ever do that, but because their schools are putting them on display as a virtue signal. Hang on. I'm just listening to something real quick. He just said if parents aren't like helping kids to be like anti-racist, then white children are going to grow up to be racist. Jesus Christ. All right, that's exporting now. Let's keep going.
Change to be more inclusive.
And the other thing too is he is obvious, like they're all obviously reading off a script. Like he was stumbling in the script. He's obviously reading off a script.
If the people in those systems do not understand the issues.
Yeah. So Andrew, this is posted to the Portland Public Schools YouTube channel. This is literally on a school it's on a school social media channel, which is exactly the same thing. This is all sponsored by the school.
Thank you.
Thank you, Weiwei, for a well-researched call to action. I am Caddison, and I'm a junior at Ida B. Wells Barnett High School.
A well-researched call to action that someone else obviously wrote for you. This is just like the inauthenticity of these people. Hang on. I want to post this on Twitter before we watch this, just because I feel like I'm having to clip all these students. So this Portland High School student. Obviously, I'm not posting on Twitter. I'm giving people instruction on how to post on Twitter because these are obviously not my Twitter accounts. Because I'm permanently banned on Twitter for posting a school email address or a government email address. Okay. Explains that white parents have a responsibility to teach their kids anti-racism. Otherwise, those white kids are more likely to grow up and be racist. This was posted to the Portland Public Schools YouTube channel in February 2021. Year and a half old. First ones to find it. All right, the video is exported. Let's get this party started. All right.
These open and honest conversations about race tell your kids that this is a topic that is okay and important to talk about. Actions speak louder than words, and with every anti-racist action you take, those same actions will be mirrored within your own family and children. Having conversations about race in Black and Brown households is already commonplace in a process that's referred to as racial socialization.
Yes, we already saw. So there was actually a keynote speaker from the ADL. They're working with the ADL on all of this. These kids have all gone to like ADL summer camp or something. But yeah, this is in conjunction with the ADL, but this is through the Portland Public Schools. The ADL is working through the Portland Public Schools. They're also working at the schools in Burlington.
In which parents of color socialize their children to exist, thrive, and be successful in a world which is inherently oppressive towards people of color. Children are aware of being treated differently, but they do not understand why. For white parents, it is just important to talk about race. These conversations can stem from educating yourself and your children on the history of racism in America, if you have not done so already. Mia has shared some amazing resources in her Google Classroom that you can use to learn more and that you can share with the young people in your household. As a young white woman, I have grown up during a time period where these conversations about race have become increasingly necessary, especially among white people. I'm grateful for the conversations my own family has had about race, especially in more recent years. However, these did not become commonplace within my own household until both of my parents experienced events which furthered their knowledge about race and the necessity of general education about the existence of and reasoning behind racism. This further illustrates how vital education is for parents, especially in dismantling the sense of discomfort and allowing for deeper, more beneficial conversations among families and those who don't directly experience racism in their lives. Now more than ever, we need to see white families step up, advocate, and educate themselves. Talking with children about race is not a one and done. It should begin at an early age and continue throughout adolescence into teen and adult years. If your child was the one experiencing racism, discrimination, or any other form of hate, what would you do on behalf of them or your family? Modeling anti-racist actions is a necessary step to take in conditioning your child to be anti-racist and socially conscious.
Wow,
Despite the fact that these
conditioning your child to be anti-racist. What is that? 121? I'm not going to clip it right now. Conditioning your child to be anti-racist. All of these are so crazy.
Conversations may be at times uncomfortable, they are vital to have. Thank you to everyone for listening to our community calls to action. Now, we are going to transition into a live student panel discussion with Ms. Nash.
Oh,
That our
good.
Vice Principal, Ms. Conning, is going to moderate.
Thank you, Caddison, and our No Place for Hate peer facilitators and everyone that is with us tonight. We recognize this is a lot to say and a lot to digest, so thank you for staying with us. We've got a live student panel along with Ms. Nash for about 25 minutes. As our student panelists turn on their cameras, I've asked our community ally Holly Pruitt to speak for a minute on resources related to bias, crimes,
The community ally, the activists that they have on staff.
Turn on your cameras, and we're going to share a couple of resources, and then we will start the live panel.
Thanks, Ms. Conning. And wow, students, what you laid out was so impressive, so impressive. And I've been privileged to get
I enjoy it when they have the sign language interpreters. Sign language interpreters are amazing.
That Mia and her peers have collected in the social justice classroom. And some of you may experience glitches getting in there based on settings and so forth. But I know that Ms. Conning is going to send a follow-up email to everybody with a link and hopefully figure out some tips on how to get into that classroom. But I really want to encourage you to take a look, and we've got a couple of slides here. Mia gave us a tour through the classroom in her presentation earlier, but if we go to screen share now, you can just get another glimpse at the topics that are there.
The classroom that we will be looking at later. Before,
so
nothing remotely controversial.
You can't quite see, but this is all located on the now Ida B. Wells social justice and racial equity page. It's a resources page that looks like this on the left-hand side, No Place for Hate. And then the social justice classroom, you can see the directory of all the different topics on the left, and each of those expand to just a real treasure trove of resources.
Thank you.
Under self-education.
We appreciate that treasure trove of resources.
If you have trouble.
Thank you for doing our work for us.
We also want to share what's on that page in terms of reporting and support resources. So Ms. Conning, that would be the next slide. This slide shows that there are a great number of options for reporting anonymously and for those who have been harmed to access support. These are on that same resources page for the school. Of course, it's up to each person to report in a way that feels comfortable to them, but it's really important for these incidents to be documented and counted so that we as a community are really paying attention to the levels of bias, crime, and hate symbols in our schools, parks, and neighborhoods. As the students have so powerfully told us, speaking up when we see hate in our community is each of our responsibility. So we can take that screen share off, and you'll get a follow-up email about those resources, and looking forward to hearing from our student panel.
Okay. All right, student panelists. I have the first question for you coming from our audience, and audience members, please feel free to continue to share questions with us in the Q&A function of our Zoom webinar tonight. We won't have time for every single question, but we do have a handful here to get us started. So the first one, and Wei, I'm going to go ahead and get you started with the very first question.
Hang on. William, good to see they're teaching racism, but not basic PowerPoint skills. I mean, why would we teach useful skills that can be used in the real world instead of teaching kids how to be activists?
It has been the hardest part of being a No Place for Hate peer facilitator, and what has been the best part? Wei, I'm going to have you start us off, and then we'll hear from Yaniv.
Of course. So one of the hardest parts that I kind of feared myself was knowing that, putting myself out there in these types of situations and opportunities, that there are people, out there who do not agree, what I do. And they want to maybe like spread hate and harm and threats, towards me. And that's something I also find very hard, is to realize, I just don't want to, be hurt in this process. Also, just another fear I kind of have is that, sorry, just let me think of a sentence, that all of our hard.
Another rabbit hole. The National Equity Project is partners with the California Department of Education. This is why we need the Unwoke Army, folks. This is why this is so important, because every single time, this all started with one little webinar, and now we have like 75 different rabbit holes that we need to go down to figure out what's going on.
Hard work is being put in, and I don't want that our work isn't there's no change happening in our work. I want our work to make change and have students be better allies. A good thing that has happened is the support that has come from my friends and my family and staff members who have been, so helpful in this process. So I really appreciate them a lot.
Thank you, Wei. Go ahead, Yaniv. Same question. What has been the hardest part of being a No Place for Hate peer facilitator, and what's been the best part?
Yeah, so starting with the hardest part, I would say trying to create a lesson plan last year for the freshman class to get them engaged and care about the issues. It was a bit of a challenge.
Why is he creating a lesson plan?
Not because we didn't think that they would want to be engaged, but through no fault of their own, these are kids entering high school, right? And they're focused on finding new friends, taking new classes, trying to adjust to high school. They may not be focused on, fighting injustice, fighting racial injustice and all that stuff. And so it was hard to try to come up with a good lesson plan that would get them to really care about the issues, get them to participate and not be shy to share their opinions. I will say though that after we planned it and after we executed our plan and went into those freshman classrooms, it was really great to see all their opinions. Like they really surprised a lot of us by sharing out a lot. And it was really great to see. The best part, I would say, of being a No Place for Hate peer facilitator was the summer video that we showed earlier in the night. And for me, that was the best part because, like I said earlier, we weren't even in school, right? This was summer. We were on vacation. And yet we all decided as a group that this was something that we had to do.
Andrew, to answer your question, this was after Trump's Twitter ban, but it was also after Biden took office. So Biden rescinded Trump's not Twitter ban, a CRT ban, sorry. This was after Trump's CRT ban, but that got rescinded on day one that Biden took office. And so it is what it is.
That we had to create a film about. We had to make a difference right away instead of waiting until school started. Even though we were technically all on vacation, right? We didn't have that responsibility being outside of school, and yet we wanted to anyway. And then seeing how many people this video reached, not just people from our own high school, but from all the high schools in the district. And there was a person that came up to me in a grocery store saying, "Hey, are you the kid that was in that video about fighting racial injustice?" And I was like, it just makes me feel so special just to see that we were able to have an effect on so many other people.
Thank you, Yaniv. Janelle, would you like to add something that hasn't already been said to that question? What's been the hardest thing and the best thing?
Yeah. I was just going to say one of the hardest things of being a part of the No Place for Hate peer facilitating, I guess, well, it's already been said. Pretty much what we have to say, the fact that people will hate on you no matter what you do, but also the fact that we're doing this online. That's kind of been a struggle trying to get people's attention and whatnot. But the best part of being a part of this organization is the fact that we're actually creating change here, not only in our community, but in our schools, making everyone feel comfortable. And
It's so sad.
just wanted to add that.
Sean is exactly right.
Thank you, Janelle. Okay, our next question, I'm going to have Lee start us off, Lee, and then Aslan. Our next question is, and I'm looking over here because I have our questions written over here. From a student perspective, what can teachers do to best support our BIPOC and LGBT students in the classroom? Lee, do you mind starting us off with that one?
Yeah, of course. So I think it's really important for teachers to be prioritizing student safety, especially emotionally. I think I can
Why
speak
wouldn't
for myself,
we be prioritizing
and I know
student
through my other
education?
peers that I don't really feel supported by most of my teachers, even if like I know they're sitting on the equity board, or if they have these goals in mind, they still might not be executing it correctly. So that's why we're doing things like this. We're here to
Did you
provide
notice
new
that they had
resources
hair
through,
earlier in the
me
video?
as Google Classroom, live events, and educating our students as well as our teachers. So just like a few bits of advice I would say is don't be colorblind. Know that every student walking into your classroom, like they come from their individual racial background, and in a majority white school, that is going to affect how they perceive themselves and compared to their students. As a non-binary student, please learn to use they, them pronouns. Understand that trans students are everywhere, even if they're not out. Students might start transitioning mid-year, or they might be experimenting with pronouns. I would say make it clear to your students that you are going to be creating a safe space, and not just say it, but act on it. Understand what you can do, giving our resources we're providing you.
I believe you were muted, Miss Conning, but I will go. Yeah, I would just love to echo everything that Lee said. It's been amazing to work beside them and, throughout this entire process. So just to echo everything that they said 100%. But I'd really just like to speak to how damaging it can be to be in classrooms, especially history classrooms, where I am the only person of color, the only queer person, the only Black person, the only Indigenous person, and I'm constantly being exposed to trauma. That could be videos about slavery, that could be videos about any form of oppression that has to do with any of my identities. And so to teachers in the classroom, I'd really just advise to promote content that shows joy and happiness and love, that shows Black joy and Indigenous love, and those relationships within these different marginalized communities that aren't centered around trauma. Because while I do think it's super important to have that narrative and to make sure that people are educated.
I'm gonna be honest, if you take all of the woke framing that they put around this, the point she's making is actually good. The point she's making about focus on things that make people happy and that are good instead of focusing on things that are bad, that's actually a fair and just point. And so we need to acknowledge these things when they happen. It was surrounded in a mountain of nonsense, but the salient point that she's making is a good one.
Educated, you also have to think about the students that are in those classrooms that have to experience those things every single day and don't want to be in their learning environment being exposed to even more trauma. And so when you have the audience that our school has, a predominantly white audience, you can use that as an opportunity to show the different sides of Black culture and Indigenous culture and queer culture that isn't always centered around death and harm and being marginalized and oppressed, because that's only one side of the story.
Thank you, Aslan. Aslan, I'm wondering if you could take us to the next question, and then Senya, we want to hear from you on this next question, which is, what role does community and collectivity play in dismantling the institution of racism? Aslan, do you mind starting us off on that one, and then we'll transition over to Senya?
I'd actually like to pass it to Senya first, just because I just spoke and I'd like to pass it to her, but I will speak after her.
Thank you, Aslin. So when thinking about this
Oh, I
question,
fucking knew she was going to be
what
darker skin.
originally comes
Do you
to
know what
mind
she
is the
just
fact
did?
that there is a
Do you know what she just did? She passed it over to her because she has darker skin, and so she's higher on the oppression hierarchy or progressive stack. So she's going to be considered more oppressed than the previous girl, and that's why she passed it over to her.
lot of power in allyship and representation. When I say there's power in allyship, allyship should be an ongoing action throughout your life. And, you know, it is definitely a label that has become very popularized, especially during the rise of BLM over quarantine. And I feel that sometimes it can lose its.
See, I want to make a point here. So William is saying, and William, I swear, I'm not picking on you. You're just giving me a point I need to make. Her earpods were made by slaves. Maybe she should discuss that in class. Have you ever discussed that? This is one of the things that the right does that is completely ineffective. Like pointing out like hypocritical things on the left, because the left does do hypocritical things, but then the right doesn't do anything about those things either. So it's not necessarily a genuine thing to claim that really, I'm sorry, like anyone cares about this. No one on either side cares about this. And so if we aren't willing to do the things that we're demanding other people do, we can't speak up and give those things as examples, because it makes us look like hypocrites, and then it makes us look like we don't actually believe the things. There are so many people who claim to care about stuff like this who do absolutely nothing to fight back against stuff like this. We have to be genuine and authentic for these. Oh, speaking of which, I think I missed a super chat earlier. Hang on, I want to go back to it, but I want to thank Sin. Sin, thank you for this $2 super chat, just because I wish I felt better. I wish you felt better too, Sin, but we appreciate you and are glad you made it here today. And then I saw another one come in, Incognito. Gone for an hour, was capitalism mentioned? I don't think capitalism was mentioned, sadly, Incognito, but someone please correct me if I'm wrong. Awesome. Thank you, Phil. Well done. Grandma Nay, all you can. Oh, I didn't mean to display that on the screen. I'm sorry. I was gonna delete it for you, Grandma Nay. I was gonna delete it. You can delete it.
Meeting, it can be quite watered
That was
down.
awful. I really
Allyship
thought
should
I
be
was
something
deleting it.
that
I'm
you are
sorry,
constantly
Grandma
doing,
Nay.
whether that is
That was funny,
educating
though.
yourself or through educating others. I feel that the most powerful
wait, I
form
have
of
to go into here and
allyship is
delete
when
it.
people
I can
use
delete
the
it in
skills
here.
that they already have to be an ally and advocate for marginalized communities. And when I say that there's power in representation, look at the timelines
Thanks for
that
being
you
a good
have on
sport,
social
William.
media. Are you seeing a diverse array of people and ethnic backgrounds and stories and identities that you are constantly looking at on your feed? Are you reading books by authors of marginalized communities speaking on their stories and uplifting other marginalized voices? So yes, that's definitely something to keep in mind. As a community, there is power in numbers as well. So tell your friends, educate your friends, and normalize these conversations, as hard as it may be. It's important in being the progressive world that we want to be.
Thank you so much, Senya. Haslin, did you want a chance to add to that?
Yeah, just briefly. I think I value community and the collective to the highest extent. I spent my entire summer alongside Senya as just one of the amazing Black women I was alongside throughout the entire summer, protesting in the streets of Portland every single week. And there's nothing like being in that type of environment and being around other people, specifically other Black people, that are fighting the same fight. We're fighting for Black liberation. We're fighting
That's
for
not what the protests in Portland are citing for.
Dismantle all of these oppressive institutions and systems that are this country. But when we look at how we need to decenter white supremacy culture from our spaces, I think it starts with looking at how white supremacy culture thrives off of the mentality of individualism, and how, especially in this country, people have such an individualistic mindset, whether that comes to wearing a mask or protesting.
You guys know what's about to happen. You guys know what's about to happen. We're making a clip of this. Holy shit. Okay, hang on. Sorry. Okay. Hang on. Okay. It's clipping time.
Value community and the collective to the highest extent.
Hang on. Got to go back a little bit.
Value community and the
Why isn't it?
Tell your friends, educate your friends, and normalize these conversations, as hard as it may be. It's important in being the progressive world that we want to be.
Thank you so much, Senya. Haslin, did you want a chance to add to that?
Yeah, just briefly. I think I value community and the collective to the highest extent. I spent my entire summer alongside Senya as just one of the amazing Black women I was alongside throughout the entire summer, protesting in the streets of Portland every single week. And there's nothing like being in that type of environment and being around other people, specifically other Black people, that are fighting the same fight. We're fighting for Black liberation. We're fighting for Indigenous sovereignty. You know, we're fighting to dismantle all of these oppressive institutions and systems that are this country. But when we look at how we need to decenter white supremacy culture from our spaces, I think it starts with looking at how white supremacy culture thrives off of the mentality of individualism, and how, especially in this country, people have such an individualist mindset, whether that comes to wearing a mask or protesting or standing up for your beliefs, and just the idea of, if I'm inconvenienced in my own individuality, then I'm not going to do it. And that's a very Eurocentric ideology. That's a very Eurocentric practice. And so when we look at what it means to be actively anti-racist, not racist, because if you're white, you can't not be racist. You're benefiting from the institution of racism. What's important is to be actively anti-racist and to wake up and choose to be actively anti-racist every single day. And while you may be doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the collective. You're doing it for Black people. You're doing it for queer people. You're doing it for trans people. You're doing it for Indigenous people. Because we can't overcome these systems that are literally built into every single institution in this country unless we're doing it as a collective. And so stepping away from that individualistic mindset is so important, and is why I truly believe community is the only way we will be able to dismantle these oppressive systems.
Well, that clip turned out even better than I initially anticipated that clip was going to turn out, if I'm honest about it. I wasn't expecting it to go there. I wasn't expecting it to go full on white people can't not be racist. Holy shit. This is on the Portland Public Schools YouTube channel and has been for a year and a fucking half. Hang on. Let me get her. Oh, man. Hang on one sec, guys. Bear with me. I got to get the right spot for the clip. Okay, I've got the beginning of the clip. Hang on, folks. Just give me 1 minute here to find the end of the clip. All right, got the end of the clip. Got to make it pretty real quick. Wow, I really didn't expect her to go. Oh my God, these kids are so brainwashed. It's so sad. So what did she say in that one? She said all white people are racist. She said white supremacy culture is based in individualism, and that white people can't not be racist. Okay. All right. All white people are racist. All right, let me just make a note of this but real quick of what she actually said in this before I forget. In this clip, a Portland high school student student says that individualism is white supremacy and that white people can't not be racist. This was posted to the Portland Public School YouTube channel in February 2021. All right, guys, that's ready to go when we are ready for it, when it's done exporting. And let me just get that off the screen and let's keep going. 15 more minutes.
Thank you so much. I learned so much from our student.
And congratulations, Incognito, on his blackout bingo. 2 blackout bingos today. Do we have any other blackout bingos? I got King Phil the chat with the first ever blackout bingo. We got Incognito. Let me know if anyone else has one.
Voices. Thank you. Next question. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to have Lee start us off with this next question, and then we can go to Weiwei. The next question is, what advice do you have for middle school students who will attend Ida B. Wells Barnett High School and want to engage in anti-racism and racial justice work?
Yeah, so I would say start educating yourself and your peers. I think myself, as in middle school, we never talked about race. I didn't have the space that I have in high school. So when I see Robert Gray starting to do initiatives with No Place for Hate, it's really heartwarming. So I would say look at resources from Mia and from our website. Continue to grow yourself and your peers, but also learn from us. We're doing our education for freshmen, so we're here for you, and we want to continue to uplift voices. And I think we're not sure how this is going to work during we're online now, but in the future you can become No Place for Hate peer facilitator, so you can educate your peers. So I would say
thanks, Phil. Have a good one.
Listen to Aslin. We're gonna continue to grow as a group and educate yourself and others. Yeah.
Thank you, Lee. Weiwei, do you want to add to that?
Thank you, Lee, for that amazing comment. Great advice I would give to middle school students is to join affinity groups and also to reach out to administration like Ms. Conning to say, I want to help, I want to volunteer, and to speak in classes and to get out of your comfort zone. And I'm going to put in kind of a personal experience of mine of how I got out of my comfort zone being new to Ida B. Wells as a freshman. I had a swastika be put on my geometry desk, and I was, scared, and I didn't know what to do. So I went, to my mom, and my mom said, we can get through this together. So I went to my teacher, and I said, there was a swastika drawn on my desk, and I'm, hurt. And we went to the administration, and we got that taken care of, and they put the desk away. So it felt good to know that I got the situation done.
Thank you, Weiwei. Ms. Nash, there is a question for you specifically. And the question is, what other schools in Southwest Portland are making a No Place for Hate commitment? And how can these efforts be connected across schools and with other parts of our Southwest Portland community? Perhaps you have some advice for us there.
What an excellent question. So I can tell you right now that we have a number of schools that have signed up for No Place for Hate in Portland. We have Woodlawn Elementary School, Harriet Tubman Middle School, Lincoln High School, Ida B. Wells, obviously.
Anytime they're giving lists of things, you need to make note of this. So if we actually do go down this road of doing a Portland project similar to the Burlington project, and it seems like there are people that are interested in that, we need to go back and make sure we're making a list of these schools that are working with this campaign, because that's going to give us information about like where to look for things and what they're doing. So that, like I keep saying, these people will tell you exactly what they are doing in the open. You don't need to do FOIA requests for any of this stuff. They will tell you what they're doing in the open, and you just need to know to go look for it.
Robert Gray, obviously, as we've heard from both those schools. Jackson is doing some work as well. And while Oregon City is not part of Portland Public Schools, they are a neighboring town. And I'm going to share with you what they've just done in terms of being awarded a Metro City grant that they applied for. And they're launching a district-wide initiative that is starting by doing committee meetings and committee training in all of the schools within the district. So that's a much smaller training than what these students did. It's just a 3 to 4 hour training, but we're doing it kindergarten through 12th grade at all of their schools. So what could Portland Public Schools do? We could start a conversation
Kindergarten through 12th grade in all of their schools. Let me just make a note of that. 142. But I thought critical race theory wasn't taught in K through 12 schools.
How to take this momentum and make a district-wide initiative, because I can tell you that these students influenced the addition of Robert Gray, of Jackson, of Lincoln, being enthusiastic and excited in participating in this work. So the best thing to do is to reach out to me if you're interested in bringing it to other schools. I'll put my email in the chat. It will be in the follow-up from Ms. Cunning, and that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nash. Okay, I think we have time for a couple more questions. The next question is going to go to Yaniv, and then our final question is going to go to Mia. And there are more questions, and I know we're not going to get to all of them. However, we're going to ask you for your feedback, and you can put your question in the feedback, and we can get back to you through email and possibly through another conversation. So Yaniv, next question. In 3 months after your training, while you were in school in person, were there bias incidents that you were able to interrupt in the hallways or in class? Did you see improvement in the climate at the school?
So I think that's a really good question. And it relates to a question about like the effectiveness of what we were doing while going into freshman classrooms. And I think it's important to understand that this is not going to be an overnight change, right? So we went into freshman classrooms. You're not going to see that next week that there's nothing wrong going on in our high school. And I think that's something that everybody really needs to understand.
Listen,
what we're doing is we are starting.
Although I never condone ridiculing kids, but this kid scares the hell out of me. This kid, I think, I could be wrong, he likes the power of this. I would be terrified of this kid, like growing up, honestly.
Starting a conversation, we are increasing awareness, and we are just creating a path for the rest of
I could be wrong.
the
I hope I
Ida
am.
B. Wells high schoolers to continue this conversation about race. This is what we're doing tonight. This is what we wanted to do in person.
Doesn't he have that vibe?
A little less than a year ago, until it was unfortunately canceled because of COVID. And I believe that our high school is going to be put to the test.
Do you notice what he has on his bookshelf right here? That's Twilight. I'm pretty sure that's Twilight. He's got Harry Potter on his bookshelf. Twilight. I'm just saying.
When we are able to return in person. I think that because of online school, because of COVID, we don't really know how much of an effect we are having yet. And so we're going to be put to the test. There's no doubt. But again, I think that it's important to remember this is not going to be an overnight.
I wonder I wonder if this kid is in Antifa, like right now. This kid could be current Antifa. God, I feel bad. Okay, no ridiculing kids. I'm just pretty sure that kid's probably in Antifa.
Change, not in our own city or I'm sorry, our own school, not in our own community, and definitely not in our own country. But what we're doing is we are trying to start a change. And that means that you're starting these conversations. You're going to freshman classrooms. You are just trying to increase awareness so that people are now aware that when they see those incidents, they know how to respond.
Incognito says, this is classic Maoism and what happened in Cambodia. We need to read a good book about the Chinese Cultural Revolution. I actually have a book. So I've got a couple books that I'm thinking about for book club. One is about, we've already kind of read a brainwashing book. I had a brainwashing book kind of like on tap, but we already read one with the R of the mind. But there's this book about the Chinese Cultural Revolution that I think would be really interesting, that I got a long time ago and never read the whole thing, but I read enough of it that I think it's really good, that we might do for book club. Yeah, he's probably got yeah, I see Lord of the Flies. You're right. I see Lord of the Flies as well. Yep.
Thank you, Yaniv. Okay, Mia, you're gonna bring us to a close with, I would say, a really big question. And thank you for your willingness to answer it. Here's the question. What empirical evidence exists that conversations and reflections actually interrupt the cycle of implicit bias?
That's a
and
great
structural
question.
racism?
What evidence
Under what
exists?
circumstances are these more
Evidence is
effective?
white supremacy.
Go for it, Mia.
Okay, so when I asked this question, I went straight to my AP Sub notes from last year. But first, I would like
They
to just
plan the
say,
questions
I
in
think
advance.
the
That's what happened.
overemphasis on needing evidence and needing scientific
White supremacy.
proof that something works is a very Eurocentric and white ideal.
White
I
supremacy!
think
What did I
that
say?
conversations are just as important, but
Carlin is right, tip jar again.
I would like to address that. So if we want to get into the science, I went back into my notes, and I think part of the reason why it's so important to have them is because we have this thing called the fundamental attribution error, right? Which is where
That
we
doesn't
go
explain
in and we
this.
talk to somebody,
That doesn't
or we
explain
don't
this.
talk to them at all, and we attribute their behaviors to who they are rather than to circumstances.
That's not what the fundamental attribution error is. She's got it half right with the fundamental attribution error. There is a thing called the fundamental attribution error. It is a psychological thing. Many of you have probably heard of it, but she's not giving you a complete definition of what it is. The fundamental attribution error is when you don't like someone, or you're looking for a reason not to like someone, you will attribute every bad thing about them to an innate character flaw. Whereas if you want to like someone, then you are much more likely to attribute things that you don't like about them to circumstances with which they find themselves. That's what the fundamental attribution error is.
But a lot of times behaviors are due to circumstances and not because of who they are. For example, if I was just sitting in my classroom and somebody's like, wow, she's so smart, it must be because she's Asian, right? There's an attribution to my identity rather than maybe I studied for 5 hours last night, right? So that's one thing. If you have a conversation with somebody and you actually engage in dialogue and you get to know them, you'll understand the circumstances in which they're engaging in their behaviors rather than attributing it to some aspect of their identity that doesn't matter to that.
Yes.
Additionally,
yes, they are.
Your
Well done.
hippocampus is
Well
in
done.
charge of sorting memories. And I remember that because Loveless was like, it's like if there's a hippo on campus. And it prefers vivid cases over like less vivid cases or smaller cases. And no offense to lectures and no offense to classroom settings. However, that being said, I think a personal conversation between two people who are friends or have a relationship might be a more vivid case than having a lecture and just sitting in the back row. I don't know if that's right. For me as a student, that's how I feel. So I think conversations can be more effective if it's a one-on-one between two friends or two people who you really respect. And I think sometimes that message comes across better than any book or any YouTube video can come across because it's a more vivid case and you're psychologically more likely to remember it. That being said as well, there's also cognitive dissonance, which is what you can go through when you are hearing some new points of view. And that is your brain when its attitudes are not matching what it's like hearing or what it's absorbing or your own behaviors. And so within that, your brain has to adapt and adjust your schema, like your mental schema, to whatever you're consuming. And so that's literal growth from a conversation. And that is also scientific growth. And then you have the Robbers Cave. So the Robbers Cave experiment was on prejudice, and they put a bunch of people together and they pitted these two teams of young kids against each other in a bunch of competitive activities. And they kept going until there's a bias against the two groups. And then after there's a bias, they put the two groups together and had them do teamwork and those types of activities where the activities were more based on getting an objective together. And that actually decreased prejudice. And I know that's not the same as years and years and years and centuries of prejudice and systemic racism and whatnot. But I believe that when you put people together into a conversation with an objective and you're working together to talk about something important, that's an objective, that's a goal, that's something you're working towards. And that is something that's mimicking the same Robbers Cave experiment, which you can look up if you want. In my opinion, that has been proven to decrease prejudice. And last but not least, there's the mere exposure effect. And the more you see something and the more you hear something over and over again, the more you like it. So the more conversations we have and the more we talk about these important issues, the more your brain enjoys it, I guess, or the more your brain expects it and becomes familiar with it, because we like what is familiar. So that is my answer. I believe that conversations are important, and I understand that sometimes it may not feel like you're not getting anything done, but you can't see inside the brain unless you have a cool, fancy scanner, and we don't have those. So this is all I have for you, and I truly believe that there's a meaningful impact between just having a conversation. I'm done. Thank you.
Wow. Now the audience knows why I have the best job in the world, and so does Miss Newland and Principal Stitch and Miss Lanzis and Miss Caldwell. We get to spend our days learning and hearing from these amazing, brilliant young minds. And on that note, I want to share a few comments. No place for hate peer facilitators with you. One is from a teacher at Ida B. Wells High School. I just want to congratulate all the students who are involved in our No Place for Hate program. Y'all are amazing, and I am so proud to have you as leaders at Ida B. Wells Barnett High School. Another comment came in from another English teacher, Miss Diamond. A shout out to these amazing.
I feel like I missed the era in schools where teachers and principals said every single thing that every student does is amazing and incredible and wonderful. And oh my God, how lucky am I to be around these people all day, every day. And I feel like this has got to have some detrimental effect. I like it, like, because, okay, there's students, and doing stuff like this, misguided as it is part of a learning process. Like learning to speak in front of groups of people, learning how to present your ideas. It's part of a learning process. And so I don't want to come down on students too harshly, because it's part of a learning this is how you learn how to do these things. If you want to have a YouTube channel, turn on your effing camera and just start talking into it, and eventually you will learn how you want your channel to operate and what works best for you, and you'll get better at public speaking. You'll be able to do it off the cuff more and not have to script it or things like that. So fine, like this is part of the process of learning. But if they're told that everything they do is amazing all the time, when in fact I'm sorry, it's not amazing. It's not. They're basically doing a report, which is fine because this is how people learn how to do things. But if you're constantly told that this is amazing, this is incredible, we're so lucky to learn from you, that's going to give you the indication that you're doing something amazing and incredible and that you are a blessing to learn from. And when you're a high school student, I have to think that that might, inhibit your actual development to be able to want to do better, to strive to do better. Did I just miss is this all part of the participation trophy era? Because I missed all of that. I'm too old. I mean, I was actually, fun fact, because we're getting towards the end of the stream now, so I'll give you guys a fun fact. So like one of it's ironic because you guys know I have this fucking Twitter horde that, like, even though I got permanently banned off Twitter, they're still talking about me because they're obsessed with me. And one of the things this Twitter horde does is they investigate every single part of my life, and they happened to find on a website I wrote for 15 years ago me saying that I made a website about a boy I didn't like in high school. And they made fun of me for it. They were like, well, look, Carlin's been driving people away as long as she has existed. She made a website when she was 15 about a boy in high school she didn't like. Well, I'm bringing that up because I actually had a conversation with that boy just the other night. because we actually still keep in touch. And he called me and we were talking about like, you know, like the good old days when we were in school and like all that stuff. And he said to me, he's like, Carlin, we were at the very beginning of the millennials or the very end of Gen X. We missed all the crazy shit. Thank God. And he's actually a teacher. He is currently a teacher now in Florida. And it's just like we were reminiscing about like how we didn't have to do any of this shit. So I guess thank God I'm a little bit old. I'll take it. But yeah, I feel sorry for you younger people. Like, but it explains so much because I've actually been thinking a lot lately, and I'd like your guys' feedback in the chat. Is everyone under 35 like insane? I've joked a lot that like I can't have friends that are like under the age of 35, and that's kind of pushing it. Like at best you're on probation if you're under the age of 35, because I just really think like every single problem that I've had with ridiculous people in this space, they've all been younger. And I feel like they all went through the participation trophy generation and they have different expectations about life because they went through the participation trophy generation. But you are definitely insane. But generally speaking, you're pretty quiet, so it's okay. We're gonna make it. Anyway, let's finish this up. A couple more minutes.
Amazing students. I'm humbled by them and so proud to teach at Ida B. Wells High School. Couple other anonymous statements, and then we'll turn to our closure. Thank you, students, for your impressive work on the No Place for Hate program. You are all true leaders and role models. Finally, huge thanks to you all. I am grateful for and respect your commitment and willingness to engage your fellow students. I think y'all rocked it tonight. We're going to turn it over to Nura for a close. And audience viewers, please look in the chat. Nura will tell you more about that. Nura, it's you to close us out for the night.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Nora, a junior at Ida B. Wells Barnett High School and a No Place for Hate facilitator. Once again, we'd like to thank everybody for coming to our first virtual ADL No Place for Hate student facilitated event. Thank you for not only taking time out of your day to be here as allies, but also for staying present the entire time. We'd like to get your feedback by asking you to fill out a short survey. The link to the survey will be placed in the chat, and we'll also be sending an email to everybody who registered. It's important to recognize how prevalent hate is not only in our school, but also in our community as a whole. We're very fortunate to be able to take this necessary first step in creating a more equitable environment with you all here tonight. We are committed to making Ida B. Wells Barnett High School a place where all students, regardless of race, religion, gender identity, or sexuality, feel safe and welcome. Attending tonight's program is one step toward achieving that goal, and taking the No Place for Hate pledge is another way. As you heard from Scotty Nash and my peers here tonight, remember that being an ally is more than just not spreading hate, it is actively working against it. We encourage you to take the information you learned here and apply it to your daily lives, share it with the people around you, and continue educating yourself on how you can be an even better ally. We are doing our part and invite you to do yours as well. Lastly, I'd like to give one final thank you to the peer facilitators who worked tirelessly to put this event together, to the adults who gave their continuous support, and you all for attending. Thank you and good night.
All right, guys. Well, I guess that we made it through the entire 3 hour. It felt like 3 hours. I mean, we've been streaming for over 3 hours. We made it through the whole webinar. I have a laundry list of clips that I need to make in addition to the 87 clips that I made on the stream. But guys, if you enjoyed the stream today, then I really do want to encourage you to come to this webinar tomorrow night. I'm going to put this, the link for this in the chat. This is where you can register directly for the webinar. And this is going to be where I talk about the Unwoke Army. And the Unwoke Army is going to investigate stuff like this. Apparently, we're starting an entire Portland project. If you want to help us go down the rabbit hole of looking into the Portland schools, there's already a project created in our Discord, but you got to come to the webinar tomorrow night, or at least register for the webinar tomorrow night and watch the on-demand replay if you want to get involved. This is all volunteer, but I have a very specific vision for how I want this to run. It is a decentralized model, so I'm not the leader of it or anything. I'm providing structure and I'm providing structure. and I'm providing some infrastructure, but really this has got to be about self-motivated people who want to go down these rabbit holes. Bots said it earlier, like you get an adrenaline rush when you start looking at their documents and really figuring out what's going on, and you find stuff that's buried on their website that they don't want you to see. It is a rush. Or even just like making these clips and getting them out there. Like you can do stuff. You can do whatever you want to in the Unwoke Army. You can be completely anonymous. You do not have to use your real name. You don't have to be a public person at all. You can write, you can make clips, you can find documents, you can do whatever you want. And if you do want to be a public person, then I will help you build a platform. You can write on my platforms. You can be on my YouTube channel. I will help drive traffic as much as I can to your projects when they coincide with like the Unwoke Army stuff. And so there's all sorts of things that you can do with this. You volunteer as your time allows. There's no strict commitment. If you are really busy one week and you can't do anything, dude, it's totally fine. But we can talk more about it tomorrow night. So head over to unwokearmy.com to register, and we can talk more about what that looks like. And if you are not available tomorrow night, that's totally fine. Make sure you register anyway, because I'm going to send you out the recording after it's done and you can watch it when you're ready. I also have some other stuff going on activelyunwoke.com. You can check that out if you want to. But of course, please make if you can. All of this is supported by you. I don't have any private backers. Well, yet, I guess. No, and I don't really want private backers because I really do want this to be a crowdsourced, crowd-funded initiative, because that means we are not beholden to anyone for anything. So there are different ways that you can support my work. You can become a member on Patreon. There are lots of options on there. I know some of you don't like Patreon. That's okay. I understand that. I'm going to get the subscribe star to be like in sync with Patreon, so we'll have different options there. I also, of course, have my locals community set up, so you can join via locals for $5 a month, $50 a year. You can also make a one-time gift through locals. You can also become a paid subscriber on my Substacks, my Actively Unwoke Substack, or my Red Pill Diaries Substack. And that will also go to supporting it. I've got crypto and PayPal options down below if you'd like to do that too. But all of this is funded by you guys, and I can't do it without you. So thank you in advance for that help. And if you become a supporter on any medium, you could become a YouTube channel member. You could become a locals member. You could become a supporter on Patreon. You could become a supporter on the Substacks, whichever works best for you. If you become a supporter, you will get access to my supporter Discord. And this week we are kicking off movie night. We're going to have a regular series of movie nights, which I'm really excited about. And thank you to Jennifer and Andrew for really spearheading this. They've done a great job. We are going to be watching Soylent Green together on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So get your access to the supporter-only Discord. Come hang out with us. Come watch Soylent Green. Don't give it away for anyone who hasn't seen it. But it is. I just rewatched this movie a couple weeks ago. It's fucking phenomenal. It's even better now. And guys, fun fact: Soylent Green takes place in 2022. This is the universe's way of winking at us to say, yeah, you know all that stuff where they're putting cricket flour and things. The 70s predicted this shit. 2022. You can't make this stuff up. But guys, I hope to see many of you in the supporter Discord on Sunday. We, of course, in my locals community, and if you're a supporter on Patreon, you're going to get access to this as well. We will be having a community Zoom tomorrow at noon. So that's another reason that you want to become a supporter on Patreon or locals tonight. Because yes, Corey, Soylent Green is Democrats. Exactly. And so if you want to come to our community Zoom at noon tomorrow, that's going to be in locals. I'm also going to send out the link to all the patrons on Patreon. And so come join us for a private chat. They're private, they're unrecorded, they're awesome. And I will see some of you at noon tomorrow, but I will see even some of you tonight, because I'm going to take a couple hours off. I'm going to go have a break. I'm going to go eat some food. And I will be back live at 9:30 p.m. with Joshua for Nothing Remotely Controversial. So, guys, mount that like button on the way out the door if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in a couple hours for psychics and news and all sorts of fun. All right, guys, take care, and we'll see you soon.